A pillar of blue light crashes down through the darkness, dragging Aizawa Yuri back into consciousness. He wakes up, slumped against cold stone inside a cavern glowing with fading cerulean light. His mind is empty. No memories. No purpose. He studies his gloved hands like they belong to someone else, and realizes he doesn't even know his own name. Then a translucent blue status window flickers into view and identifies him as Aizawa Yuri. The name feels foreign. He doesn't have time to process it. Shapes move in the shadows. Goblins crawl out from every corner, eyes glowing, fangs bared. Weak ones, bigger elites, all circling him like he's already dead. Then the ground shakes. A massive, obese goblin wearing a crooked golden crown steps forward. The Goblin Lord mocks him, assuming he's just some unlucky guild servant who wandered into the wrong cave. With a sneer, it signals the horde to kill him. Yuri watches the swarm rush in and wonders if his life is ending before it even begins. Then something snaps. A flash of memory cuts through his blank mind, a silver knight in crimson, standing in a storm of steel. His body moves on instinct. He grabs a simple wooden branch from the ground. What should have been clumsy turns deadly. He lunges. The stick slices through the air like a legendary blade. The first goblin is blasted away in a burst of light. Impossible strength flows through him. His movements are sharp, refined, automatic. The Goblin Lord shouts for its minions to overwhelm him, but Yuri is already tearing through them. The wooden branch leaves streaks of light as bones shatter and bodies fall. Notifications flood his vision, announcing advanced swordsmanship skills unlocked one after another. It hits him mid-slaughter, he remembers. In a past life, he was the Sword Saint. The cave floor is covered in corpses. Enraged, the Goblin Lord unleashes a torrent of magical fire, swallowing Yuri in a roaring inferno. The monster laughs, certain no swordsman could survive that kind of heat. But when the flames fade, Yuri is still standing. Another notification appears. Not only did he survive, he mastered the fire itself. Advanced fire magic acquired instantly. The air around his raised hand distorts with heat. A shimmering barrier protects him as the Lord stares in disbelief. Yuri doesn't hesitate. His expression turns cold, distant. He raises one hand and commands a firestorm. The atmosphere ignites. A spiraling vortex of flame erupts from the ground, swallowing the Goblin Lord in a pillar of blinding light. Its screams vanish as its body is reduced to ash. The cave falls silent, except for the fading crackle of embers. Yuri stands in the glow, watching its life force disappear. And then the truth fully surfaces. This isn't just one past life returning. A deeper history unfolds in fragments. Before becoming the Sword Saint, he had another reincarnation as the Demon Emperor. Supreme magic, dark dominion, absolute power. A status window confirms it. He carries the combined memories and abilities of both the Demon Emperor and the Sword Saint. And before all of that, his very first life was painfully ordinary, a corporate slave trapped in a suffocating black company. Then came his rise as Demon Emperor. Then his rebirth as the legendary Sword Saint. Now, in this third reincarnation, all those lives overlap inside him. The weight of countless battles presses against his palms. He remembers the people who begged for his protection, the ones who feared him even as he saved them. The exhaustion of standing alone atop mountains of corpses under a crimson sky. He was worshipped, used, labeled a monster, treated like a weapon. In every life, he was someone else's tool. He walks through the cavern's rocky passage, memories flickering like dying candles, until light spills in from ahead. He steps out of the tunnel and into a sunlit valley. Golden light washes over rolling green mountains, stretching into the horizon. Warmth touches his face. For the first time, he feels something steady inside him. Not confusion, not rage, but clarity. He's done being a pawn, done serving destiny, done carrying the expectations of the world. In this life, he won't be the Demon Emperor. He won't be the Sword Saint. He won't be a corporate slave. Aizawa Yuri will live for himself. A massive rock formation towers over a forest clearing like a sleeping titan. Near a dark cave entrance, the young adventurer sits on a fallen log, laying out everything he owns: 2 heavy sacks of food, a handful of copper coins, and a rusted sword that looks one swing away from snapping. It's not impressive, but it's better than nothing. He lifts the blade, testing the weight, wondering if it's any better than the wooden branch he once used. As he studies it, a blue interface flickers into view. He's gained the analysis skill. His eyes light up with intricate blue circles, and the world shifts into raw data. The sword is revealed as a D-grade iron blade in terrible condition. The dried meat, F-grade. The copper coins, exactly what they look like, low value. The skill is useful, but when he scans the surrounding forest, nothing shows up. The environment is still beyond his reach. A sudden rustle snaps him into a defensive crouch. Instead of a monster, a bright blue slime hops out of the bushes. It chirps softly, wobbling closer with big, sparkling eyes that scream hunger more than hostility. He decides not to fight something that clearly isn't a threat. Reaching into his bag, he tosses it a strip of dried meat. The slime devours it happily. System messages explode across his vision. Beginner taming, intermediate taming, advanced taming. Just like that, he unlocks a grade B skill that lets him communicate with monsters. The slime presses affectionately against his leg, shimmering with joy. It clicks in his mind. His skills grow based on his choices. The world reacts to how he moves through it. Then a scream tears through the forest. A wolfman bursts from the cave, sprinting toward the clearing in pure panic. It's a lichen named Pancho Panza, dressed like a regular traveler, but shaking like he's seen death. Tears stream down his face as he runs from something massive. The adventurer runs alongside him, asking what's chasing him, but Pancho barely answers. Now isn't the time. The trees above explode apart as a B-grade cockatrice descends from the sky. A monstrous mix of bird and reptile, beak wide open and ready to strike. While Pancho is falling apart, the youth watches calmly, more curious than afraid. He offers protection in exchange for answers. Desperate, Pancho agrees instantly. The youth stops and draws his cheap blade. He knows it won't pierce that hide as it is, so he channels blue energy into it. Light wraps around the steel, the edge humming violently. He steps forward and swings once. The air splits apart. A massive arc of force rips through trees and earth, carving a smoking trench across the clearing. The cockatrice is sliced clean in half mid-air before it can even finish its scream. Silence falls. Notifications flash again. Beginner, intermediate, advanced magic enchantment acquired in seconds. He barely notices. The sword in his hand shatters into fragments. It couldn't handle the power he forced through it. Pancho stares at him in horror. The monster that chased him is dead, but the boy standing there feels even scarier. He calls him a monster and bolts into the woods. From the shadows, the little blue slime watches quietly. An orange magic core pulses where the cockatrice fell. Later, after things calm down, the youth and Pancho sit beneath filtered sunlight. The youth admits he has no memories, no idea who he is or why he's this strong. Pancho confesses he thought he was a demon at first. Then he explains the area these woods belong to cockatrices. His former party used him as bait and abandoned him to die while they hunted rare items. Despite everything, Pancho suggests they head to the Adventurers Guild. Registering there might help uncover his identity. The nearest one is in the commercial city of Rediel, about 20 kilometers southwest. The youth listens, reflecting on his past lives. He remembers being an adventurer before living freely, answering to no one. The idea feels right. For this life, it might be perfect. He thanks Pancho and prepares to leave, then pauses. 20 kilometers is far on foot. He wishes for teleportation, or at least a carriage. A massive shadow suddenly blocks the sun. Another cockatrice descends, crowned with jagged red feathers. Pancho immediately panics again, screaming as he runs for the trees. The youth stands still, glancing at his shattered sword. Without a weapon, maybe magic alone is enough. The cockatrice lands in front of him, but instead of attacking, it tilts its head and chirps softly. The sound feels familiar. He steps closer and gently touches its beak. A memory clicks. He asks if it's the slime. The creature leans into his hand, chirping happily. A blue window confirms it, a slime that evolved into a cockatrice form after consuming a magic stone. It can take the shape of what it eats. That changes everything. With a small grin, he climbs onto its back. The slime cockatrice lets out a proud cry and beats its wings. They rise above the forest canopy, wind tearing past as they soar through open sky. He laughs. This beats walking. In the distance, the spires of Rediel appear on the horizon. The city grows larger as they fly toward it, and toward whatever this new life is about to become. The red-crested bird stands tall on the dirt road outside the city, wind brushing through its feathers. Yuri pats its beak and thanks it for the ride, but says they should part ways here. A creature that massive would cause chaos inside the city walls. The bird tilts its head, confused, then suddenly erupts in blinding white light. When the glow fades, the giant cockatrice is gone. In its place, a small blue slime drops onto his chest armor and clings there. Yuri looks down, realizing it shifted forms to avoid attention, so it can change shape whenever it wants. He smirks and tells it to stick around. The slime chirps happily. As they approach the towering stone walls, he decides to name it Lime. They enter the Adventurers Guild, a grand building crowned with blue spires. Inside, he walks up to the counter where a cat-eared receptionist looks up from her paperwork. He calmly states he wants to register as an adventurer. She asks about his skills and experience, explaining they've been flooded with applicants lately. Yuri's mind flashes with fragments of past lives, knight, traveler, mage, but explaining reincarnations would only complicate things. So he simply says he has nothing special. The receptionist hesitates. Without credentials, acceptance is unlikely. Before Yuri can leave, a tall man with a thick mustache and heavy cloak steps forward. Galeo Figalos, a veteran examiner. After hearing the situation, he sighs and orders a testing device prepared. In his mind, the guild's pride is on the line. He'll show this clueless rookie the harsh truth. A massive glass pillar is rolled out, marked with Roman numerals from 1 to 10. It's a magic meter, designed to measure magical output. To qualify, a score of 30 is required. Galeo confidently explains it can withstand nearly 10,000 units, far beyond a novice's limit. Yuri studies the fragile-looking device, and casually asks if he'll still be allowed to take the exam if it breaks. The room freezes. Galeo bursts into loud laughter, assuring him it's impossible. Mocking grin in place, he gestures for Yuri to begin. Yuri places his palm on the glowing circle at the base. Cerulean energy explodes upward in a violent vortex. The light blinds the room. Wind whips through the hall. The numbers inside the pillar climb instantly: 30, 50, 70, then keep rising at impossible speed. The pressure warps the air. Galeo and the receptionist are thrown backward. The numbers surpass every known limit. The glass shatters into thousands of fragments. Silence follows. Yuri glances at the wreckage and apologizes mildly, asking if that's a problem. Galeo forces a shaky laugh, claiming the device needed maintenance anyway. But behind his smile, his thoughts turn bitter. He's convinced the boy cheated somehow, and he decides this candidate deserves special treatment. He grants Yuri permission to proceed to the main exam. They step into a massive white stone arena packed with hundreds of applicants. The scale of it hits hard. This won't be easy. A cheerful girl with twin chestnut ponytails bounces up to him. Phil Arnett, 15, human, 7-time exam taker. She proudly offers advice. Yuri calmly points out that taking it 7 times means she failed 7 times. Her confidence collapses instantly as she sinks into despair. After recovering, she leans in and whispers that the new examiner made the test brutal. Right on cue, Galeo strides into the arena, cloak billowing, blade drawn, voice booming. First trial, fencing. To pass, candidates must defeat him in a direct sword duel. The first applicant, Johnny Slanger, steps forward with cocky energy and a short sword. The signal sounds. He charges fast, blades clashing in sparks of red and green. To the crowd, it looks even. Johnny grows arrogant. Then Galeo's expression shifts. With a sudden surge of strength, he twists his blade. Johnny's sword snaps clean in half. The broken piece spins into the dirt. Galeo laughs loudly, mocking him and telling him to return to basic training. Johnny stands frozen in humiliation. The crowd murmurs nervously. No one wants to face that. Yuri watches quietly, activating analysis. Blue light fills his eyes as data windows appear. The truth becomes obvious. Galeo wields a B-grade shock sword. Johnny had an F-grade bronze sword. The fight was never equal. It wasn't skill. It was equipment. Galeo calls Yuri's name. Phil gasps, worried. Yuri steps forward calmly. He would have preferred more time to observe, but it doesn't matter. He reaches to his belt and draws his weapon. The crowd goes silent. In his hand is nothing more than a broken hilt with a jagged shard of steel sticking out barely a blade at all. Galeo frowns, confused. Yuri looks down at the fractured weapon without emotion. Then he walks toward the man who just shattered a full-length sword, ready to begin. The arena falls dead silent when everyone realizes Yuri is holding nothing but a jagged metal stump. Galeo stares at the broken blade, disbelief written all over his face. Yuri glances down too, finally connecting the dots, obliterating that cockatrice cost him his weapon. Galeo's shock turns into loud, mocking laughter. He points at the shattered sword, calling it garbage unworthy of a warrior. He claims he doesn't bully weaklings, and warns Yuri to quit now before embarrassing himself further. According to him, accidentally killing someone that defenseless would stain his reputation. Yuri doesn't react. If he can't clash blades, he'll win without touching steel. His eyes sharpen. He calmly tells Galeo the fight will end in a second. That does it. Galeo's face twists with rage. He charges, pouring his full strength into a decisive strike meant to crush him. Right as the blade comes down, Yuri activates a technique from his time as the Sword Saint shrinkage. To the crowd, he vanishes into a blur. He slips through microscopic openings in Galeo's attack, gliding past him like a ghost. Before Galeo even realizes he missed, Yuri is already standing behind him. The jagged shard presses lightly against the back of Galeo's neck. The entire arena freezes. Phil stands there with her mouth hanging open. Galeo feels the cold metal at his spine and immediately drops his arrogance. He panics, declares Yuri the winner, and grants him a pass on the martial exam. The crowd erupts in stunned cheers, still trying to process what they just saw. Yuri lets the broken hilt fall. He thinks it's over. Heavy footsteps shake the ground. A massive man with a golden beard and white cape approaches Magnifigolos. He announces the test isn't finished. It's time for the magic trial. High above the arena, a giant red crystal prism floats in the sky, glowing ominously. To pass, Yuri must shatter it with magic. The other candidates stare upward in despair. It's hundreds of feet in the air. Spells begin flying ice shards, wind crescents, tiny flames, but they barely travel halfway before fading out. One by one, hopefuls hang their heads. Phil clutches her hair in panic. To everyone else, the test feels impossible. Yuri just tilts his head. Why is this hard? A burly examiner with a blonde mustache steps forward, laughing loudly. He assumes Yuri's silence means incompetence. He gives a lecture about how swordsmen can't grasp real magic, and claims anyone who can't cast properly doesn't deserve to be an adventurer. He turns away, ready to fail the entire group. Yuri casually lifts one hand. A small orange flame forms in his palm. The examiner's laughter dies instantly. A violent pressure wave erupts outward as Yuri releases it. The giant man is blown backward, boots scraping against stone. The fireball rockets upward, growing larger and brighter as it climbs. When it strikes the red crystal, the sky detonates. A colossal explosion of gold and orange devours the horizon. Heat rolls across the arena. A shockwave slams into the stands, throwing candidates off their feet. The crystal vanishes inside a blazing inferno that dwarfs the entire Colosseum. Embers fall like burning snow. When the smoke clears, Yuri stands calmly, barely ruffled. He looks at his hand, mildly disappointed. He had toned the spell down, aiming for a normal fireball. To the others, that was a legendary inferno. Far away, on a cliff overlooking the city, a hooded figure watches the explosion. Hidden beneath black robes, a thin smile forms. They whisper that the awakening has begun, but the boy is still immature. They look forward to meeting him again. Their body dissolves into a serpent-like trail of black smoke that streaks across the sky, before fading near the fortified city below. Back in the arena, the dust finally settles. Yuri sits casually atop the chest of a fallen knight in ornate red and white armor. Golden hair sprawled across the dirt. The man lies completely defeated. Yuri looks down at him without hostility and lightly asks if that was enough to pass. The guild receptionist slides a crystalline blue card across the counter, a bold silver F stamped right in the center. She congratulates Yuri, explaining that every adventurer starts at F rank and climbs up through completed quests and achievements. Yuri takes the card without much reaction, quietly studying it as proof that he's officially registered. Around them, the massive guild hall hums with veteran warriors, rough laughter, and the smell of old wood and steel. She's just starting to explain how quest requests work when the atmosphere flips. Rapid footsteps pound across the floor. Before Yuri can even turn, a small figure rockets into his back. It's the girl from the exam, grinning like she just won a championship, throwing up a victory sign and nearly knocking him flat with pure energy. After steadying herself, she bows awkwardly. Her mahogany hair is tied into two lively pigtails, and she's dressed in a yellow and brown adventurer tunic. She introduces herself as Phil Arnett and immediately tells Yuri to call her Phil. When he gives his name, she lights up even more. She proudly flashes her own F-rank license, explaining there was a retest after the chaos of the first exam. A quick flashback shows exhausted candidates slumped over while an official reviews paperwork. Phil insists she only passed because of Yuri's help. Yuri brushes it off, saying he didn't really do anything. Not everyone's impressed. Across the hall, a group of veteran adventurers watches them closely. Leaning against tables with narrowed eyes, they don't like the noise or the newcomer getting attention. One man, Zach, his face half covered by long dark bangs, studies Yuri with a cold stare before muttering that the kid's just annoying. The next morning, golden sunlight spills across a city of stone rooftops and tight alleyways. Inside a cozy inn room, Yuri stretches in front of a wide window, yawning deeply. He can't remember the last time he slept this well. His mind briefly drifts back to his previous life, mud-soaked battlefields, monstrous beasts, endless fighting. A translucent blue screen suddenly materializes in front of him, softly glowing. It announces a newly acquired skill, beginner-level unattributed magic. Yuri studies it, sensing this magic is fundamentally different from what he once wielded. Still, the bed wins. Since his lodging's covered by adventurer funds, he ignores the notification and crawls back under the covers. That peace doesn't last. Footsteps thunder down the hallway. His door slams open so hard it hits the wall. Phil bursts in, shouting an overly cheerful morning greeting. Yuri can only glare at her, half asleep and clearly irritated. Her excitement dies instantly when she looks down. Yuri isn't on a bed frame, he's resting on a massive mound of wobbling blue jelly. The giant slime beneath him has a happy face and jiggles with soft squelching sounds. Yuri explains the in-bed was too small, so his slime companion, Lime, expanded to act as a mattress. Phil just stares as he casually introduces the giant creature as his travel partner, hands clasped in awe. Phil marvels at his ability to command a monster. She asks if she can squish Lime. Yuri looks to the slime for approval. Lime bounces happily in agreement. Phil immediately dives in, pressing her face and arms into the cool, squishy surface, completely enchanted. Yuri finally asks why she came. Phil snaps back to business, explaining their adventurer status is only provisional. There's a hidden final exam, and failing it means instant license revocation. Yuri considers how inconvenient that would be after all this effort. He agrees to participate, but when Phil eagerly presents a quest flyer she already grabbed for them, he shuts her down. He prefers working alone. The rejection crushes her. She collapses dramatically onto the rug, teary-eyed, begging him to reconsider. He doesn't budge. As he heads for the door with Lime perched on his shoulder, he pauses. Turning back, he asks a simple question. How do you even accept a quest? The question stops her crying cold. It's obvious, despite his strength, he has zero experience. Phil realizes he's powerful but completely new to how this world works. She admits she feels ordinary compared to him, but his performance during the exam inspired her. She wants to grow stronger and see his power up close. Yuri reflects on his own situation. He doesn't fully understand this world or his own abilities. For now, sticking with her makes sense. When he agrees, her face lights up instantly. He tells her to wait downstairs while he gets ready. Alone, he approaches the window and looks out over the city. Extending one finger toward the horizon, he focuses. A blinding beam of fire erupts from his fingertip, tearing across the sky toward a distant clock tower. High atop that tower, two masked figures in dark hooded clothing are spying through a brass lens. The beam slams into the masonry near them in a violent flash. Sparks and stone explode outward, the structure rattling from the impact. The observer lowers his lens, horrified. The device in his hand is now a charred wreck, smoke curling from shattered glass. The strike came from over 100 meters away, and it was precise enough to disable their equipment without leveling the tower. Realizing they've been exposed and their target is far more dangerous than expected, the spies retreat immediately. They need to report this to Zaxan. Back at the inn, Yuri stands by the open window, arms crossed, staring toward the clock tower. Sunlight highlights his sharp features as a shadow crosses his expression. He wonders who's watching him and why. Did he already make enemies? Or is something from his past catching up? Phil's cheerful voice calls from another room, asking if he's ready. The tension eases. Yuri answers calmly and takes one last look at the horizon before turning away from the window to join her. Phil charges down the forest trail like she's on a victory lap, calling back for Yuri to keep up. He follows at an easy pace, calm and unreadable, quietly comparing this peaceful walk to yesterday's chaos. The forest feels almost too quiet. A forest mouse and a plump rabbit peek out from thick green bushes, both so low in the monster hierarchy they barely register as threats. Yuri pauses, watching them until they dart away into the brush. This quest feels way too easy. Phil, meanwhile, is thrilled, saying they lucked out with the safest job possible. With obvious pride, she explains their mission, gathering medicinal herbs. It's beginner-friendly, low risk, perfect for new adventurers. She even lined up at dawn to secure it. When Yuri dryly compliments her dedication, she lights up, soaking in the praise until she notices him drifting toward another path. She quickly corrects him, pointing north. That's where they're supposed to go. The eastern forest is a death trap, packed with high-level goblins and wolves. She has no idea Yuri literally woke up there yesterday, surrounded by monsters far worse. When he casually mentions defeating a cockatrice in the east, she laughs it off as an obvious joke. They reach a bright clearing Phil confidently declares is the herb field, only to find it completely stripped bare. Her excitement crashes. She drops to her knees, digging through the dirt in disbelief while Yuri calmly notes someone beat them to it. Heavy footsteps interrupt them. Zach Barbare and two veteran adventurers step out, smug as ever. Yuri recognizes Zach from the guild. With a lazy grin, Zach confirms they harvested everything. Phil looks crushed. Then Zach pulls out a single fresh herb, pretending to play the generous senior. He claims experienced adventurers should guide newcomers. Phil rushes forward, teary-eyed and grateful. The second she reaches for it, Zack yanks it back. His expression twists into open malice as he mocks her innocence and calls them losers. The trio lectures them about crushing others to climb higher, laughing as they suggest the two should give up and crawl back home. Yuri watches silently, blue eyes sharp, recognizing the hostility. He wonders if these are the same people who've been watching him since morning. Still, he can't think of anything he did to earn this. Beside him, Phil trembles, fists clenched tight. Anger burns across her face, but she forces herself to refocus. There's still time. They just need to find more herbs. Yuri nods. If they fail this provisional quest, their licenses are gone. Their journey ends before it even starts. They stare out over the endless green canopy. Searching it manually would be impossible. A soft wiggle stirs under Yuri's collar. Lime pops out, chirping excitedly. Yuri lifts the little blue slime into his hands, wondering what it wants since he already fed it. Blue energy sparks between them, forming a brief telepathic link. Understanding clicks instantly. Trusting Lime completely, Yuri throws it high into the sky. The slime rises above the treetops, glowing brighter and brighter, then splits. One becomes dozens in a flash. Tiny blue slimes scatter like rain over the forest, bouncing through branches and landing everywhere on leaves, the ground, even on Phil's shoulders and head. She stands frozen, staring at the swarm of miniature scouts. Yuri watches with a small, confident smirk. As long as they recover the herbs, it doesn't matter how they do it. The scattered blue slimes ripple and merge back together, forming a shimmering mound of translucent azure stacked with medicinal herbs. Phil throws her arms up, cheering like they just cleared a raid boss. Yuri stands beside her, calm as ever, arms folded. In just an hour, they've gathered more than enough to pass any requirement. He gives Lime a quiet nod of praise. The slime answers with a soft, proud vibration. Yuri suggests heading back to the guild, but Phil hesitates. She glances at the slimes, then toward the darker stretch of forest. Forcing a smile, she tells him to return without her. She just wants a short walk alone. Yuri studies her for a second, sensing something off, but lets her go. The moment she's out of sight, her cheerful mask drops. She walks deeper into the woods, sunlight flickering across her tense face. She stares at her gloved hand and thinks about Yuri, his strength, his composure, how effortlessly he handles everything. Standing next to him makes her feel painfully small. The memory of a sneering man with a golden eye and jagged grin resurfaces, his voice mocking her as a useless child who can't accomplish anything alone. Her fist tightens around a leaf, crushing it until green stains her glove. She refuses to stay in anyone's shadow. If she's going to be an adventurer, she needs to prove it herself. With sudden resolve, she kicks off the ground and leaps into the trees. She moves with surprising agility, vaulting between branches and swinging through the canopy. High above the forest floor, she finds what she was searching for, a nest tucked safely along a thick limb. For a moment, pride fills her chest. This is it. She feels capable, independent. Then a low rumble vibrates through the underbrush. A massive gray wolf steps out from the shadows. Yellow eyes lock onto her. Its lips curl back, revealing rows of wet, gleaming fangs. Panic grips her. She's gone too deep. This is an E-class monster far above her F-rank ability. Her hands tremble as she draws her short sword. Fear threatens to paralyze her. For a split second, she almost shuts her eyes and gives in. But Yuri's image flashes in her mind, not as someone to compete with, but as someone who moves forward without hesitation. Her amber eyes snap open, burning with determination. She won't be a burden. She won't run. When the wolf lunges, she lunges too. Her blade slams into its snout midair, sparks bursting on impact. The force knocks her backward, but she regains footing and presses her back against a thick tree trunk, breath coming fast. She forces herself to focus every rustle, every shift in the shadows. The wolf charges again. She dives aside just as its claws rip through the bark, sending splinters flying. Using the momentum, she scrambles up a low branch. Now above it, she flips the descent into an attack. With a fierce cry, she drives her sword downward. The blade catches the filtered sunlight before plunging deep into its hide. A burst of magic detonates at the impact point, engulfing the wolf in a blinding flash. It collapses. Phil lands hard on the grass, chest heaving as she stares at the motionless body. Then it hits her. She won. A shaky laugh escapes her as she throws her fists into the air, shouting into the empty forest that she can succeed too. The victory lasts all of 5 seconds. A low growl rolls through the trees. Then another. And another. Her smile fades instantly. From the darkness beyond the clearing, dozens of yellow eyes flicker open. She didn't eliminate the threat. She summoned the pack. Wolves step forward from every direction, forming a tightening circle. Her throat dries. She tries to speak, but nothing comes out. When two wolves leap at once, jaws snapping, she squeezes her eyes shut and braces for the end. Instead of fangs, she feels a violent rush of wind. A silver-white blur tears through the clearing. Wolves scatter like leaves in a storm. When she opens her eyes, she's no longer on the ground. Yuri holds her securely in his arms, his figure framed against the bright blue sky. The pack recoils around them, wary now. Phil exhales his name, voice shaking with relief. Yuri looks down at her, expression steady and almost bored. He tells her to leave the rest to him. Yuri steps in front of Phil and steadies her as 3 wolves snarl across the clearing. She stares at him, stunned that he showed up out of nowhere. He calmly explains he followed her because he couldn't let her return alone after helping secure the medicinal herbs. He admits he'd been watching from the shadows, impressed by how she handled herself in the earlier fight. Phil flushes, torn between relief and pride, clutching her chest while staring at him like he just rewrote her entire day. The moment snaps when the wolves roar and charge. Yuri doesn't flinch. His mind flashes back to the inn the night before, when a simple glass of water triggered his strange system and instantly upgraded his water magic from beginner to advanced. Now he taps into that power. Cyan energy coils around his hands as he says he'll end this quickly. He unleashes a towering water tornado. The vortex erupts from the ground, swallowing the wolves and spinning them helplessly before slamming them back down, soaked and dazed. Yuri studies the result and realizes the spell restrains well, but it doesn't finish the job. The wolves stagger up again, hunger burning in their eyes. So he shifts tactics. The air turns cold. Frost crawls over his gloves and condenses into a jagged ice blade in his grip. When the wolves leap, he swings. The strike triggers frozen spears that burst from the earth, impaling and trapping the beasts in crystalline shards. Phil watches in stunned silence, completely blown away. Then Yuri senses something bigger. From the tree line, dozens of yellow eyes ignite in the dark. More wolves pour in. Phil quickly pieces it together. A pack this organized must have a leader. As long as the boss remains, the attacks won't stop. Yuri narrows his gaze, agreeing they just need to eliminate the alpha. Beside him, Lime the slime chirps urgently. Yuri connects with his familiar and sees through Lime's vision. Atop a moss-covered boulder stands a silver wolf, a rank sea monster with 3 glowing red eyes. Returning to himself, Yuri thanks Lime. As regular wolves lunge again, he dodges smoothly and fires a concentrated blast toward the alpha's perch. The rock explodes, but the silver wolf escapes at the last second. The dense forest gives it too much cover. Yuri decides to erase the advantage entirely. He gathers massive mana into his palm, forming a miniature sun. He orders Lime to retreat. Then he releases a catastrophic spiral of advanced fire magic. A white-hot pillar of flame tears through the forest, incinerating trees instantly. The silver wolf is caught in the inferno, reduced to ash as the blaze consumes everything in its path. When the fire dies, only scorched earth and smoke remain where the forest once stood. Yuri lowers his hand, calm as ever. Phil, on the other hand, is shaken to her core. She demands to know what kind of power that was. Yuri tilts his head innocently and says he just used standard fire magic. Phil completely loses it, insisting there was nothing standard about that at all. The battlefield's aftermath is spread across the dirt, from tiny E-rank magic stones to a medium wind magic stone, glowing faint green. Phil stares at the massive pile of linen grass they harvested, already stressing over how 2 people are supposed to carry all of it. Yuri rubs his chin, thinking through the logistics, and the moment he wishes for an easier way, a blue interface flashes in front of him. He's just unlocked intermediate attributeless magic. The skill settles in, spatial contraction. He figures it probably triggered after finally getting a proper night's sleep at the inn, something he hasn't had since arriving in this world. Either way, problem solved. They head back to the Adventurers Guild, its blue-tiled towers rising over the city. Inside, Phil confidently slaps a jagged magic stone onto the counter. The receptionist adjusts her glasses, confirms the kill, and can't hide her surprise. Clearing an E-class monster on a first quest isn't normal. Phil soaks it in, officially earning her F-rank status, then jumps in celebration while Yuri watches quietly. When the receptionist turns to Yuri, she notices his empty hands and asks if he has anything to report. He calmly tells her to wait and raises his hand toward the center of the hall. Blue magic circles spin into existence as space distorts. Then he releases it. A mountain of linen grass explodes into the guild hall, towering over desks and chairs. The receptionist freezes. The commotion draws senior staff. An elderly man with a silver mustache and monocle pushes forward, skeptical at first. Then he digs into the pile and pulls out the glowing emerald wind magic stone. His hands shake as he identifies it and demands to know if Yuri defeated a silver wolf. Yuri just blinks and asks if that's a problem. The guild erupts. Staff rush to the back rooms to report what just happened, while Yuri and Phil stand casually beside the herb mountain, like this is just another day. Phil can barely contain herself, already declaring Yuri future top-tier material. Yuri leans on a railing, detached, waiting for the verdict. Eventually, the inner doors open. A group of officials, led by a silver-haired man in a formal waistcoat, steps out and bows deeply. They announce an exception. Yuri is being promoted straight to B rank. The hall goes silent. Veteran adventurers whisper in disbelief. No newcomer jumps tears like that, and Yuri shuts it down immediately. He flatly refuses the promotion and declares he'll remain F rank. The collective gasp echoes through the guild. Later, under the amber glow of sunset, Phil still can't process it. She asks if he's really turning down that kind of status. Yuri explains higher ranks mean constant summons, pressure, and attention. He calls it a hassle. He admits things are unfolding too similarly to his previous life, and he refuses to repeat it. He says he just wants freedom, to move at his own pace, to stay low profile. Then he suggests they continue together as low-rank adventurers. Phil looks at him like she's seeing him clearly for the first time. She respects that he doesn't chase glory. Meanwhile, she can't ignore the gap between them. She remembers barely surviving one wolf and freezing when surrounded. She thinks about failing even basic herb quests, beginners usually clear. The difference in strength hits her hard. Instead of shrinking from it, she decides she'll work harder. With renewed energy, she thanks him and sprints down the cobblestone street. Yuri gives a short farewell and watches her disappear into the crowd. But they aren't alone. From a dark alley, a hardened man with a bitter expression watches Yuri's back. He mutters Yuri's name like it tastes poisonous. Behind him, leaning against stone, stands a tall, hooded figure wearing a disturbing mask stitched into a wide grin with a single red nose. The man asks if the job will be done. The masked assassin calmly promises it will. The sunset washes the cobblestone streets in orange as Phil stretches with a tired groan, arms high, back arched. She jokes about being completely drained. Yuri walks beside her, hands near his belt, calmly telling her to go home and rest instead of overdoing it. She agrees, smiling through half-lidded exhaustion, and they split in the middle of the busy district. She waves one last time and jogs off, twin pigtails bouncing as she disappears around a corner. Yuri stays behind, the evening settling into something quieter. Then his stomach growls hard. He realizes he hasn't eaten all day. Remembering the gold from today's haul, he decides he's earned a proper meal. He stops in front of the Cervantes Adventurers Tavern, warm light leaking through the door. He steps inside, a bell chiming overhead. Immediately, someone shouts his name. Behind the counter stands a large canine-faced lichen in a waiter's vest and bow tie, pointing at Yuri in disbelief. Yuri recognizes him from the eastern forest, a beastman he once ran into. He casually calls him Pancho. The wolfman snaps back with his full name, slamming his paws on the counter before finally calming down. Pancho heads to the stove, admitting his adventuring days are over. After being abandoned by his former party and nearly dying, fear got to him. Now he cooks instead. He prepares a plate of squid, ink, spaghetti nero loaded with seafood, and slides it across the counter. Yuri takes a bite. It's incredible. He gives a rare, honest compliment, and Pancho laughs proudly, admitting he used to be his party's cook anyway. Then Pancho's tone darkens. He mentions rumors from the guild, especially about Yuri destroying the magic power meter. He warns him about Zack, a smug former leader. Yuri remembers the face instantly. Pancho explains Zack left him to die in a dungeon without hesitation. Worse, Zack hires professional killers to eliminate promising rookies so he can control rewards and reduce competition. Yuri starts asking what these assassins look like. The ceiling explodes inward. Wood and plaster rain down as a masked figure drops into the tavern, a massive axe slamming into the floor hard enough to crack the timber. Purple aura pulses around him. Pancho immediately recognizes him. The infamous human killer Joker. The assassin doesn't waste time. He charges, axe blazing with red energy. Yuri raises his blade to block, but the impact shatters it instantly. Steel fragments scatter across the floor. Yuri glances at the broken hilt, realizing his gear just hit its limit. Metsu presses forward, carving through tables and chairs, mocking Yuri for retreating. Yuri dodges through the wreckage, mind racing. High-level magic would flatten the entire building. He needs something smaller. His eyes lock onto the bar shelves. He darts over, grabs a heavy green bottle, and channels mana into it. Blue energy wraps around the glass, reinforcing it with a shockwave spell. As Metsu closes in, Yuri leaps and slams the bottle down. The explosion of force detonates outward. Metsu is blasted across the tavern, crashing through cabinetry and disappearing under shattered wood and bottles. Silence follows, except for debris settling. Yuri lands lightly and tosses aside his broken hilt. He casually asks Pancho where he can buy a new weapon. Pancho stares at the ruined tavern in pure devastation. Outside, in a nearby alley, a disheveled man watches with a scowl before slipping back into the shadows. Yuri follows directions to a stone building marked with the 100-Beard sign. He pushes inside and walks straight into chaos. A red-haired girl in white armor is slamming a broken sword onto the counter, arguing with a dwarf blacksmith wearing a horned helmet and goggles. The dwarf refuses to accept blame for the blade breaking so quickly. She refuses to leave without answers. Her presence dominates the shop. Fiery red hair, sharp blue eyes, stands firm like she's ready for battle. She demands accountability without backing down. Yuri stands near the doorway, holding a small memo, already exhausted. His half-lidded eyes and flat expression say it all. To him, this isn't dramatic tension. It's just more trouble showing up uninvited. Inside a cramped timber workshop, packed with the smell of charcoal and iron, Rico Granes is going off. 16 years old, long crimson hair, face burning red. She's demanding compensation for a shattered rapier laid out on the counter. She refuses to accept it as is, and wants a proper replacement. Across from her stands Ugo Mantle, a dwarf with a graying beard and goggles resting on his helmet. He lets out a tired sigh and tells her the truth no one wants to hear. The town's economy is in shambles. Quality weapons are a luxury now. If she wants something better, she'll have to look elsewhere. Yuri stands slightly behind them, quiet, holding a stack of papers. He doesn't interrupt at first. His attention locks onto the broken blade. Then his left eye shifts, the iris transforming into a glowing blue geometric pattern. Through that strange vision, he sees the weapon's truth laid bare. Grade D, trash tier materials, but the craftsmanship? Quality A, high skill, flawless execution. The blacksmith isn't the problem. Yuri cuts through the argument with a calm observation. The smith's ability isn't lacking. The materials are garbage. Ugo freezes, surprised that a kid caught that. His expression darkens as he explains that they used to rely on high-grade ore from the northern mines. That supply is gone. A vicious golem took over the mines and claimed them as its territory. He shows them an image of cracked red earth glowing like a wound in the mountainside. With no access to quality ore, he's been forced to work with scraps. The shop may not survive much longer. Yuri doesn't offer pity. He walks to a barrel of mass-produced blades and picks up a plain iron sword. Then he drops a heavy pouch on the counter. 50,000 gil. The wood creaks under the weight. He states plainly that he'll buy the sword and use it to kill the golem. Both Ugo and Rico stare at him like he's insane. Rico flat out says no one fights a golem with a sword. Yuri calmly tests the grip and replies that it's about how the weapon is used. He promises to bring back high-quality ore so Ugo can forge him something worthy. He leaves the shop. Rico storms after him, red cloak snapping in the wind. She blocks his path and demands to see his adventurer license. Yuri hands over a pale blue card. In the center is a bold F, the lowest rank possible. Rico nearly explodes. F rank is for picking herbs and digging potatoes. He's a novice, completely out of his depth. Yuri doesn't understand why she's so worked up. His life isn't her responsibility. Flustered, she admits she doesn't want someone dying because of her broken sword situation. So, she's coming with him. They leave the safety of the town walls. The northern mine looms ahead, a jagged mountain with a dark opening carved into its base. As they approach, dust shifts around heavy stone footsteps. A massive grade D golem steps out, a single dull red eye glowing from its rocky frame. Riko grips her massive hammer and charges without hesitation, telling Yuri to watch carefully. She circles the lumbering giant, moving fast. The lesson is clear. Keep your pace high, stay behind it, and focus on the rear. She leaps into the air and slams her hammer down on its back. The impact cracks stone and sends a shockwave through the ground. The golem drops to one knee. Yuri studies the fight calmly. Massive strength, heavy durability, but painfully slow movement. That's the weakness. Riko lands and smirks, starting to explain that the back is the weak point. Then the golem's core flares bright orange. A beam of concentrated energy blasts out from its chest, roaring toward them. Riko freezes at the sudden shift. Yuri moves. Blue mana erupts around his blade. His eyes glow to match. With one clean horizontal slash, he cuts straight through the energy beam, splitting it apart into harmless sparks. Then he launches forward, body streaking in blue light. His cheap iron sword carves through stone like it's soft clay. Slash after slash lands in rapid succession. In seconds, the golem is reduced to rubble. Riko just stands there, stunned. She asks what he just did. Yuri casually says he cut it down. She chases after him, insisting that attacking a golem head-on with a sword makes no sense. It has to be luck. Yuri pauses and glances back toward the mine entrance. He says maybe she's right. Maybe it was luck. Then multiple red eyes ignite in the darkness. More golems step out, forming a small army. Yuri tightens his grip on the glowing blade and suggests they test that luck theory against the rest of them. The jagged mountain casts long shadows over the cave entrance as Yuri and Riko slip inside. Hidden behind scattered boulders, Zack and his crew watch with burning resentment. Zack can't stand it. Yuri killed a golem solo and stepped into territory they considered theirs. He mutters that Aizawa Yuri won't get away with this. But while they're focused on him, something far worse appears behind them. A masked figure rising from the dark, a single red eye glowing, a crimson orb in hand reflecting the fear on their faces. Deeper in the cavern, arcane pressure surges. Yuri's eyes flare bright blue, rings of light spinning in his pupils. He unleashes a crushing pillar of energy that detonates across the battlefield, obliterating the surrounding rock golems in a single overwhelming blast. Stone shatters, dust floods the air. When the light fades, rubble is all that remains. Yuri exhales calmly. Riko stands frozen behind him, completely stunned by the scale of what he just did. Ignoring her shock, Yuri collects chunks of iron ore into a sack, satisfied with the quality. He finds a small non-elemental magic stone and hands it to Lime, the blue slime perched on his shoulder. Riko finally snaps out of it and demands answers. Who is he really? Yuri shrugs and repeats that he's just an F-rank adventurer. She calls that impossible. He insists he's serious. Their exchange is cut short when Zack and his men step into the clearing, weapons drawn. Zack sneers, calling Yuri a nuisance. Riko instantly realizes they're hostile. Yuri decides to remove her from danger. He quietly orders Lime to take her somewhere safe. Before she can argue, the slime expands into a giant bouncing sphere, scoops her up, and rockets through the tunnels with her screaming in confusion. Left alone, Yuri asks Zack why he's so fixated on him. He doesn't even remember doing anything. That indifference makes Zack snap. He recalls past attempts to crush Yuri, only for Yuri to act like none of it mattered. To Zack, that's humiliation. Rage twists his face as he loses control. Elsewhere, a crimson eye watches as they cross into forbidden ground. To its owner, Yuri is just a pest that needs to be erased. Three figures suddenly charge Yuri in a narrow ravine, moving with frantic desperation. Their eyes glow red, teeth bared like animals. Instead of striking cleanly, they throw themselves at him, clinging to his torso and legs with brutal force. Yuri frowns, confused. His vision activates again, revealing their status. Berserk. Increased durability, no pain, no intelligence. Even the mage further back is caught in the same frenzy. The mage raises a green staff and unleashes a sharp crescent of wind magic straight at Yuri. Pinned down, Yuri can't dodge. The blast detonates in a violent explosion, filling the ravine with smoke. The mage laughs, convinced Yuri is dead. Then a pulse of green light forms within the dust. Yuri stands unharmed, holding a condensed sphere of wind mana between his hands. System notifications confirm it. He just acquired wind magic and pushed it from beginner to advanced in seconds. He didn't just survive the spell. He mastered it. Wind erupts around him. He releases an advanced gale blast, a towering pillar of jade energy that rips through the ravine. The berserkers and mage are hurled away like debris in a storm. When the dust settles, they lie unconscious across the cracked earth. Yuri steadies his breathing. Strong new skill, but the fight isn't done. He turns toward the shadows beneath a cliff and calmly tells the hidden watcher to step out. The ground ripples like liquid darkness. A tall man rises from it, cloaked in a dark hooded tunic with flowing ribbons and a sleek mask. His red eyes gleam with intelligence, and a chilling grin spreads across his face. He greets Aizawa Yuri like they've met before, and just like that, the real threat finally reveals itself. Deep inside a cavern swallowed by shadows, a man in a dark hood and pointed mask steps forward and introduces himself as Nero Nightmare. He spreads his arms like he owns the place, silver hair glinting under the dim light, while a status window casually identifies him as a 28-year-old human. Across from him, Yuri stands steady with his spear in hand, face calm, watching the last traces of wind fade after Nero's flashy magic display. Nero starts clapping slowly, amused. He praises Yuri's strength, saying it makes sense that the weaker members of his group couldn't handle him. Then he lays it out plainly: join their organization, or die here. The word organization hits Yuri harder than the threat. A cold wave of familiarity washes over him. In an instant, memories from his past life surge forward. He sees himself as a sword saint, standing before rows of kneeling, hooded subordinates. Then the image twists into something darker, his bare torso bound in heavy iron chains. He remembers the pain, the suffering, and the price he paid for once belonging to a group just like this one. Composed, he asks Nero if he's one of the numbers. That question wipes the grin off Nero's face. No outsider should know about their hierarchy. His mind races, and he concludes Yuri must be a member too. Nero demands to see Yuri's hand, explaining that every member has their rank engraved into their skin. He reveals his own mark, 928, glowing against his glove. Yuri slowly rolls up his sleeve, recalling the old rule. The smaller the number, the stronger the fighter. A faint blue light pulses from his wrist. The number that appears is 0. Nero stumbles back in horror. 0 was permanently retired 500 years ago. It shouldn't exist. Yuri looks at the mark with mild confusion, remembering the first seat was supposed to be the strongest, and wondering what 0 means in that scale. Fear quickly mutates into rage. Nero convinces himself it's a fake meant to mock their order. He draws his blade and vanishes in a blur. The assassin moves like a phantom, circling Yuri at impossible speed, appearing in multiple places at once. Steel flashes from every angle while his voice echoes through the darkness, taunting Yuri's ability to keep up. Yuri doesn't flinch. His eyes track the movement with subtle precision. He admits internally that Nero is fast, the fastest opponent he's faced in this life, but that's all it is. Fast. A strike that should have landed clean misses as Yuri shifts at the last possible instant. Nero pulls out a violet glowing dagger, a grade B weapon laced with paralyzing venom. Yuri's eyes gleam cold blue as he analyzes it instantly and decides distance is survival. He thrusts his hand forward, launching a compact fireball that forces Nero to guard. The assassin laughs at the basic spell, but that's exactly the opening Yuri wants. A wind blade slices through the air immediately after. As Nero adjusts to the dual attack, the ground erupts beneath him into jagged crystalline spikes. Waterbind locks his legs in place. Before he can react, a massive water whirl crashes down a crushing vortex of pressure and liquid force. Nero freezes in shock, unable to comprehend a mage wielding 3 elements seamlessly. Yuri steps forward, drawing his sword. He chants under his breath, layering durability enhancement, destructive power enhancement, and impact diffusion onto the blade. Blue energy wraps around him as he lunges. Nero's mask can't hide his terror. He begs for it to stop. It doesn't. The impact detonates in a surge of magic, and when the light fades, Nero is sealed inside a jagged tomb of ice. Yuri watches the frozen remains in silence. He thinks back to chains and collars and makes a quiet promise he will never live shackled again. This life will be his. The scene shifts to a peaceful town bathed in forge light. A proud dwarf blacksmith presents Yuri with a grade B buster sword, forged from high-purity iron. Yuri tests the balance and feels its reliability instantly. When he tries to pay, the dwarf refuses, saying he only returned to smithing because Yuri defeated the golem terrorizing them. Yuri leaves with new steel at his side and the clarity of newly gained advanced swordsmanship. Walking along the cobblestone street, he hears his name. A red-haired warrior in crimson armor and a brown-haired girl with twin pigtails rush toward him, excited about a wolf quest and a trip to the armor shop. But when they get close enough to see his face clearly, they freeze. Confusion replaces excitement. They stare at him like he's a stranger. The twin-tailed girl suddenly points at him, face red with indignation, demanding to know if the red-haired warrior is his preferred type. The armored woman fires back instantly, denying any romantic link with Yuri. And just like that, Yuri mentally checks out. He turns into a pale, simplified silhouette of pure awkwardness while the two argue loudly behind him. He stands there, spiritually absent, waiting for it to pass. Eventually, the chaos shifts into background noise. The evening sun paints the town gold. Behind him, the red-haired warrior now lectures the smaller girl, pressing a finger to her forehead while the girl continues protesting. Yuri keeps walking, relaxed. Dressed like a low-level mercenary in light leather armor with a simple sword at his waist, he blends perfectly into the crowd. To the world, he's just an F-rank adventurer. But as he strolls deeper into the city, a faint smile forms. After everything after chains, betrayal, and death, this ridiculous, chaotic new life is finally starting to feel fun. The sun lights up the blue-tipped spires of the city as Yuri steps up to the guild counter, lime resting comfortably in his palm. He greets the cat-eared receptionist and asks for a high-reward hunting quest with plenty of monsters. He wants more magic stones for Lime, and the slime chirps happily in agreement. The receptionist hands him a goblin hunt, defeat 10 or more for 20,000 gil. Yuri accepts immediately, but she reminds him that F-rank adventurers must form a party before heading out. He heads to the fountain in the busy plaza, recalling a recruitment notice for a frontline sword fighter. There he finds Lid Olmer posing arrogantly with 2 female adventurers, Musel, the cat Sith, and a human named Emily. Yuri explains he saw their post and wants in. Lid looks disappointed that Yuri is another guy but checks his gear anyway. The sword passes inspection, so Lid asks for his license. The moment he sees the F rank, his face twists with disgust. He calls Yuri trash and tells him to get lost before storming off with his party, leaving Yuri alone and confused. While wondering how forming a party became this hard, Yuri hears a familiar voice. Rico, the red-haired warrior in crimson armor, approaches. After hearing his situation, she agrees to team up with him. As they walk, she checks her map and shares bad news. The goblins in the northern forest have already been cleared out. She suggests the western highlands instead, but it's a 2-hour walk, and other parties might get there first. Yuri glances at Lime, realizing walking won't be necessary. Blue energy radiates from the slime as it expands in a flash of light, transforming into a massive feathered bird with powerful talons. Riko stares in shock before they're suddenly airborne. The giant bird tears through the sky at incredible speed. Yuri stays calm while Riko clings on for dear life, completely overwhelmed. He casually explains that this is just Lime's transport form, though she's convinced nothing about it is normal. They arrive at the western highlands, rolling hills and forests glowing under the sun. Lime shrinks back into a small blue droplet. Riko stumbles upon landing, dizzy but quickly distracted by the peaceful scenery, a clear stream winding through the glade. The calm shatters instantly. Yuri's eyes flash blue as he detects movement in the trees. An arrow whistles toward Riko's head. He catches it midair inches from her face. She freezes, shaken. As he turns toward the forest, dozens of goblins lurk in the foliage, bows drawn. A dark wave of arrows rains down. Yuri draws his blade and moves like lightning, slicing and deflecting every projectile with flawless precision. In seconds, broken shafts cover the ground. Riko watches in stunned admiration. Just as Yuri prepares to wipe out the goblins in one decisive strike, Riko grabs his arm and stops him. She draws her rapier, standing tall with fierce resolve. She refuses to stay behind him any longer and declares she'll handle the rest herself, determined to prove her honor and worth as a true knight. Riko charges ahead with everything she's got, cape snapping behind her as she barrels toward the goblin archers. The memory of feeling useless in the mines burns in her chest, pushing her forward. Her rapier flashes in clean arcs of silver, cutting down goblins with sharp, disciplined strikes. From a short distance away, Yuri watches calmly. She's skilled, no doubt, but there are too many enemies for one person to handle alone. He lifts his hand, blue mana swirling around his palm. He tells Riko to hold the line. Magic circles flare around her arms and legs, flooding her with enhanced speed and strength. She gasps as the power kicks in. Her body moves faster than she can process, her strikes hitting with crushing force. Goblins fall apart under her blade. The rush hits her hard, half thrill, half disbelief, and she shouts toward Yuri about the insane power surging through her. Yuri keeps his voice steady, telling her to focus on the ground troops while he deals with the archers in the trees. As goblins draw their bows from the branches, he unleashes arcane cannon. A massive beam of blue light tears through the tree line, erasing the reinforcements in one blinding blast. When the light fades, the meadow is silent and littered with bodies. Riko drops to one knee, breathing hard. She demands to know what he just did to her, but Yuri shrugs it off as basic enhancement magic. She knows that's not true. While they catch their breath, Lime happily bounces around, absorbing magic stones from the corpses. Then Riko suddenly winces, grabbing her thigh. A shallow cut burns sharply. Yuri's eyes glow faintly as he analyzes it poison. The goblins coated their weapons. He calls Lime over. The slime hops onto her leg and presses against the wound, drawing out the purple venom. As the toxin drains, glowing status windows flash before Yuri. He unexpectedly gains beginner, intermediate, and advanced holy magic proficiency at once. Riko exhales as the burning fades, thanking Lime, but she's still favoring the leg. Yuri reaches out, white light gathering in his hand. He uses a beginner holy spell, weaving soft energy into the wound. The glow wraps around her thigh, sealing the injury completely. When the light fades, her skin and clothing are flawless. She stares at him in disbelief, demanding to know where he learned healing magic. He casually rubs the back of his head and claims he just figured it out. That only deepens her suspicion. Holy magic is rare. She starts questioning who he really is, but he sidesteps it and suggests they find the goblin's nest. She doubts they can track them, but Yuri reveals he already planned ahead. While some goblins fled, he attached a tiny piece of lime to them. The slime pulses on his shoulder, then jumps down and reshapes into a glowing blue arrow pointing deeper into the forest. Riko can only shake her head at how versatile this creature is. They move carefully through the trees until they reach a massive jagged cavern carved into a cliffside. As Yuri steps toward the entrance, Riko grabs his shoulder and pulls him back. A stronghold this size won't just house stragglers, it'll be packed with enemies, likely with a boss. Yuri considers simply wiping the cave out with a massive spell, but dismisses the idea. Without physical proof, they can't claim the reward. Before they decide their next move, a mocking voice calls out behind them. A tall blonde man approaches with a smug grin, two female adventurers clinging to his arms. He sneers at Yuri, calling him a bottom-tier potato digger. Riko looks confused, but Yuri immediately recognizes him, the arrogant adventurer from the fountain earlier. They'd been followed. The blonde man, Lid, steps in close, nearly nose to nose, laughing as he says they don't stand a chance against what's inside and should go back to pulling weeds. He and his party stride into the cavern, voices echoing with taunts as they disappear into the dark. Riko watches them with open disdain, muttering that she's glad they never teamed up. Yuri nods, though his expression stays serious. As arrogant as Lid is, he's probably right about the danger. Side by side, they tighten their gear and step into the damp tunnel, moving carefully as they descend into the heart of the enemy's lair. Lid marches through the cavern like he owns it, arms hooked around his two companions, bragging that any goblin dumb enough to show up will drop in one swing. His laughter bounces off the stone walls. Behind him, Yuri stays quiet, eyes scanning the tunnel. They've gone too deep without seeing a single monster. That's not normal. Riko walks close, hand near her sword, clearly feeling the same tension. Then the air shifts. A thick violet mist coils around their feet and rises fast. Yuri's eyes flare with mechanical blue light as he analyzes it. Dark mist, a low-grade curse meant to blind living beings. He warns the group, but the fog swallows everything, splitting them apart in a haze of purple. Red eyes ignite in the gloom. Dozens. Yuri immediately realizes it's an ambush. He shouts, just as goblins burst from the mist. He and Riko move at once. Her blade cuts in crimson arcs, clean and decisive. Yuri's sword leaves streaks of blue as he flows through the attackers. The goblins are numerous but sloppy, uncoordinated. Still, something feels off. More shadows gather deeper in the cavern. Elsewhere, Lid keeps posturing while cutting down a few small goblins, showing off for the girls. Then the ground trembles. A towering blue-skinned goblin rises behind him, muscles bulging. 2 more step forward. Lid turns pale. He swings wildly, screaming, but his blade only sparks against the lead monster's hide. The brute grabs him by the head and slams him into the stone. Blood smears across his face. Instead of fighting, he panics. As the giants close in, he bolts, shoving the pink-haired and gray-haired girls aside to save himself. They hit the ground as massive hands pin them down. One elite goblin lowers its jagged teeth toward them. A flash of blue cuts through the darkness. Yuri appears like lightning. His spinning slash sends a crescent of energy through the lead goblin's neck. Its head drops before its body does. He plants himself between the trembling girls and the remaining elites. Without turning, he calmly asks if they're okay. They nod shakily. He orders Riko to guard them. She steps back, forming a defensive line. More blue-skinned figures emerge. A status window identifies them as Goblin Elites. Grade D, Berserk State. Bigger, tougher, numb to pain. They charge. Yuri doesn't move back. He raises his palm and activates intermediate wind magic. A violent wall of swirling air erupts outward, slamming the elites into the cavern walls with crushing force. They drop instantly, bodies limp against the stone. For a moment, there's silence. Then thicker purple mist rolls in. A tall, robed figure steps forward, draped in furs. Blue-gray skin marked with red paint. It speaks clearly, voice rough but intelligent. A notification appears: Goblin Shaman, Grade B. Yuri's eyes narrow. A talking goblin, possibly the boss. The shaman mocks him for killing its kin, pretending sorrow. Then its tone turns cold. The fallen goblins were sacrifices. Fuel. It casts soul drain. Thick ropes of purple energy lash out, wrapping around Yuri. His limbs grow heavy. Magic bleeds from his body. Darkness creeps into his vision. Riko watches in horror as the shaman laughs, commanding him to wither away. Then everything changes. Notifications flash. Beginner, intermediate, advanced cursed magic acquired. The draining energy doesn't kill him, it's absorbed. Yuri stands upright, crackling with violet-black electricity. The shaman's grin collapses into shock. Yuri says calmly that he'll return the curse. He extends his hand. The spirits of the sacrificed goblins manifest, swirling in the air. But instead of attacking him, they turn on the shaman, whispering hatred toward the master who used them. The shaman stammers, trying to negotiate. Too late. Yuri releases a surge of cursed energy. A pillar of purple light engulfs the cavern. The shaman's scream is swallowed as its body shrivels into a rotted husk. When the light fades, only a melted skeleton remains. Yuri looks down at it, noting that even in death, the spirits hated their master far more than they ever feared him. White feathers drift across a clear sky while seagulls cry over the glittering ocean. Yuri sits alone on a wooden crate at the end of a stone pier, rod steady, eyes fixed on the horizon. For once, everything feels calm. His thoughts slide back to his old life in Japan, boxed into an office, glued to a screen, drowning in work with no freedom to breathe. This peaceful life, this open sky and endless sea, feels like payback for all of that. A reward he earned the hard way. That calm breaks when 2 familiar women call out to him. They're the same adventurers who once stared at him in shock near a dark cave. Now they approach with flushed faces and awkward reverence. After he saved their lives, they apparently had a change of heart. They insist they'll do anything for him. Yuri barely reacts. No ego boost, no interest. He just hands them a small stone container and tells them to put bait on his hook. They open it confidently and instantly regret it. Inside is a writhing pile of earthworms twisting over each other in a tangled mass. Their expressions collapse into pure horror. They scream, drop everything, and bolt down the pier like their lives depend on it. Yuri just watches them disappear, completely confused by the overreaction. Before the silence can settle, his fishing rod bends violently. The sea erupts into a massive whirlpool, water spiraling with terrifying force. This isn't a normal catch. Yuri plants his feet, his boredom gone in a flash. Blue mana flares around his arms and blade as he activates enchantment magic, reinforcing his endurance against the monstrous pull below. The ocean explodes upward. A colossal shark launches into the air, jaws packed with jagged teeth, shadow swallowing the pier. It dives straight for him. Yuri doesn't move until the last second. His sword flashes. A crescent of blue energy slices clean through the shark's head mid-air. The creature crashes onto the stone, blood spilling across the pier in thick waves. A translucent system window pops up. Beginner fishing skill acquired. Yuri wipes blood from his cheek, briefly wondering if he bled the catch properly. A frantic scream interrupts him. Phil comes sprinting down the pier, completely drenched in dried blood from her own battles. She looks like chaos in motion. The second her boots hit the fresh shark blood, she slips hard and slams into the stone. Yuri stares down at her while she groans. She scrambles up, panicked. As new adventurers, they're required to attend monthly guild training. If they miss it, their licenses get revoked. That would be a problem. She grabs his hand to drag him toward the city, yelling for them to hurry, only to slip again and crash flat on her back. Yuri exhales, glancing at the mess covering both of them, and calmly suggests they change clothes first. Elsewhere, towering cathedral spires overlook a courtyard filled with F-rank trainees. A dark-haired boy and a girl with brown pigtails stand side by side, tense as they wonder what kind of trials await them. From a high balcony, a purple-haired girl with a white ribbon watches with sharp eyes. Then she leaps down in one smooth motion, landing in front of the group, as dust kicks up around her boots. She announces the start of training. This is Aisha Brillante, 16 years old and already a 10th-ranked B-class adventurer known as Thorny Aisha. The crowd stiffens. One bearded man gasps in recognition. The girl with pigtails can't believe her companion hasn't heard of someone so infamous. Aisha wastes no time. She calls the entire group trash that needs recycling. The insult sets the bearded man off. He grabs her by the collar, warning her not to get cocky. Her face stays blank. In one flawless motion, she twists his wrist and flips him over her shoulder. He smashes into the stone, rock shards flying as he gasps for air. She adjusts her scarf and invites the rest to attack together. Several men rush her with weapons drawn. Aisha uncoils a dark whip and moves like a phantom. The whip cracks through the air with brutal precision. Within seconds, every attacker is down. When the dust clears, only the dark-haired boy and the girl with pigtails remain standing. Aisha turns to the boy with a faint, knowing smile. She notes his wisdom in not charging blindly. Impressed by his judgment, she steps closer and offers him a special sword lesson. The boy and his friend can only stare back, stunned, as the real training finally begins. The purple-haired instructor leads her group through a sunlit forest, brisk and purposeful, while the twin-tailed brunette behind her complains that their last training session was just standing still doing nothing. The instructor barely glances back. Standing still was the right answer, and the discussion is over. Privately, she has no patience for fresh F ranks. Newly qualified adventurers get their cards and immediately overestimate themselves, and she considers it her personal mission to demolish that illusion. She stops before a colossal ancient tree and announces it as the training ground. Yuri asks what the plan is. The instructor draws her blade without a word, closes her eyes, relaxes her stance, and delivers a single upward diagonal movement too fast to follow. Then she sheathes the weapon and waits, a beat of silence. Then the upper half of the tree slides cleanly off the stump and crashes to the forest floor with earth-shaking force. Standing in the settling dust, she declares that's B-rank power. The brunette is horrified. When told it's their turn, she immediately pushes back. The instructor keeps the lesson simple. Nobody starts strong. The point is to keep swinging until the skill clicks, and felling the tree earns them intermediate swordsmanship. The girl grips the borrowed sword and swings as hard as she can. The blade bounces off the bark with a jarring impact, sparks flying, leaving her arms numb. She hands the weapon to Yuri, cheering him on. Yuri takes the sword and thinks it over. He has advanced swordsmanship, and this is a perfect test, but the blade is borrowed, so he decides to hold back and swing lightly. He swings lightly. A wall of blue energy erupts from the blade, obliterates the trunk, and scorches a massive trench deep into the forest. Yuri turns around, sword still intact, to find both girls frozen in identical stunned disbelief. Aishan pulls her collar up, struggling to form a coherent question. Yuri points out he only followed her instructions exactly. Desperate to save face, she calls it perfectly normal. The brunette loses it completely. Aishan doubles down with a bold lie. She's wiped out a whole forest in one slash before, which launches her companion into a full breakdown about environmental destruction. Before things unravel further, Aishan moves them to a desolate canyon flanked by tall gray cliffs. No vegetation, no collateral risk, ideal for magic. She asks Yuri if he's had formal training. When he admits he hasn't, something immediately shifts in her. A visible aura of excitement radiates off her, bunny ribbon twitching. A complete magic beginner means no competition. This is her moment to shine. She steps forward and demonstrates without hesitation. Her magic circle ignites advanced fire magic, infernal funeral spear, and a column of thermal energy slams down from the sky, cratering the stone and blasting debris outward. The brunette applauds and Aishan flips her hair, calling it routine. Yuri watches silently and internally accepts the rank is deserved. She tells him magic is all about imagination, then steps aside. Yuri closes his eyes, reconstructs the sensation of her mana, the heat and shape of the spell, and steps forward. He casts the same spell. A sword of golden fire the size of a building drops from the sky. The impact turns the canyon floor to slag, and the shockwave whites out everything. When the light fades, both girls are frozen solid in shock, but there's no time to process it because the canyon walls are already crumbling. Boulders break free and plummet toward them. Both girls scream and lock up. Yuri doesn't flinch. He reads the situation, extends his hand, and switches elements instantly. Intermediate water magic. Ice pillar wall. A dome of jagged ice spikes erupts from the ground and shatters every boulder on impact. When the debris settles, the group stands untouched beneath a shell of frost. Aishan stares at his back. The shock has curdled into something quieter, deep, unsettled suspicion. She asks, barely above a whisper, who he actually is. Yuri glances back with only a vague hum of acknowledgement. System notifications shimmer in the air confirming advanced fire magic and intermediate water magic acquired. Yuri doesn't look at them. He adjusts his armor, mutters that he's just an F-rank adventurer, and walks away. That line breaks Aishan completely. She doubles over, laughing until she can barely breathe, her small white companion joining in, as she points at his retreating figure and struggles to shout between gasps. High above, a masked rider on a winged beast circles over smoke rising from distant mountains, watching the destruction below with calm interest. That combination of swordsmanship and magic is exactly what he'd expect from whoever defeated. Number 928. He turns and asks his companion, number 230, whether he can handle the target. The demon beside him almost laughs at the question. White-haired, red-skinned, horned, crackling with dark energy, number 230, bares his fangs in a grin of pure arrogance. He turns his glowing yellow eyes on the masked man and asks whether a superior being like himself could ever lose to a mere human. Inside the tavern's warm, quiet atmosphere, Yuri Aizawa calmly eats his pasta while Bancho leans over the counter, asking about Aisha's new job as an instructor. The Beastman owner smiles nostalgically, remembering their old party days and how she used to tease his limited cooking skills. Still, he respects her, acknowledging that her relentless effort pushed her to B rank. He assumes she's just trying to act responsible now that she has juniors under her. Yuri listens without much reaction, focused on his food. The door suddenly swings open. A tall man with blazing red hair, a matching goatee, and heavy dark armor steps in, a crimson cape flowing behind him. The tavern quiets instantly. This is Rosas Biscotti, the legendary A-rank adventurer known as the Iron Mass. Bancho greets him warmly, but the tension in the room doesn't fade. Rosas walks straight up to Yuri, remarking that he really is fearless. He doesn't waste time. He wants Yuri to join him on an A-rank mission, the subjugation of the evil dragon, a monster capable of wiping out an entire nation in one breath. Bancho nearly chokes, loudly reminding Rosas that Yuri is officially only F-rank. Rosas doesn't care. Meeting him in person only confirms his belief that Yuri's true strength rivals A-rank hunters, even if he chooses to stay at the bottom. The dragon recently appeared in the Western Highlands, cloaked in scales and violet flames. The guild is assembling a special task force to eliminate it, and Rosas wants Yuri on that team. Before Yuri can respond, a cold voice cuts in from the entrance. An elven woman with silver blue hair and sharp eyes steps inside, leaning casually against the doorway. She openly opposes the idea, calling it madness to bring an unknown F-rank into an elite party. She introduces herself as Chloe of the Twilight, a B-rank adventurer ranked 3rd. Her gaze drips with disdain as she makes it clear she will never acknowledge Yuri's abilities, no matter what trick he used to impress Rosas. Yuri quietly notes that he hasn't even agreed yet. Rosas shuts her down, warning her not to judge by rank alone. Chloe brushes him off and picks up a silver fork from a nearby plate. If Rosas is so confident, she'll test Yuri herself. Golden Mana gathers around the fork in her hand. She sets the terms. If Yuri can return the fork she throws, she'll acknowledge him. If he fails, he's out, and can spend his life digging potatoes. The tavern grows heavy as her mana swells. She launches the fork. It tears through the air like a golden comet, powered by overwhelming magic. Yuri watches calmly, recognizing the strength behind it. Instead of dodging, he raises a finger. Blue energy ignites in his eyes and flows into his hand. The fork collides with his fingertip and stops instantly against a barrier of azure mana. Chloe freezes. Yuri balances the vibrating fork effortlessly and casually asks if returning it is enough. With a flick, he sends it back. It becomes a streak of blue lightning, blasting past her head and slamming into the stone wall behind her. The impact leaves a massive crater. Dust falls. Chloe stands stiff, sweat rolling down her cheek, realizing he intentionally missed her. The power he sent back was far deadlier than what she threw. Without hesitation, Rosas steps forward and declares the decision final. Yuri is officially the last member of their party. He places a heavy gauntlet on Yuri's shoulder, sealing it more like a command than a request. Yuri tries to object, but Rosas bursts into laughter under the bright sky outside, confidently saying he's counting on him tomorrow. Before Yuri fully processes it, he's already been dragged into the mission. Later, inside a village shop, Yuri stands in front of the wreckage of his own store. A circular window is shattered, cracks spreading across the frame, glass scattered everywhere. An older man collapses over a table in dramatic despair, mourning the damage. Yuri offers an awkward apology but accidentally mispronounces the man's name. The shopkeeper snaps upright, shouting that his name is Pancho, not what Yuri just said. The carriage rattles through a forest path toward a distant castle, Rosas driving while apologizing for the cramped ride. Inside, Yuri sits squeezed between Aisha and Chloe. Aisha flashes a smug grin, admitting she recommended him and promising to show the gap between senior and junior adventurers. Chloe scoffs, mocking a 10th place B rank for babysitting an F rank. The two immediately start bickering while Yuri stares ahead, quietly questioning whether he belongs among an A rank and 2 B ranks. Rosas suddenly asks if Yuri is traveling with a slime. Yuri pulls out a small blue creature named Lime. Chloe dismisses it as useless, until Lime hops onto her shoulder. She instantly panics, flailing as Yuri dryly notes the slime seems to like her. The mood snaps when Rosas senses danger above. He orders everyone to jump. A golden beam crashes down, obliterating the carriage and horses in a fiery explosion. Smoke clears as Yuri's appraisal skill activates. The attackers are C-rank wyverns and they're tamed. Someone is controlling them. Rosas splits the team. He and Aisha take the right. Yuri and Chloe head left. Yuri suggests distracting the flyers while Chloe prepares magic. She shuts him down, refusing orders from someone she hasn't acknowledged. Blue ether swirls around her arm as she casts Hail Spike Cannon. Massive ice shards launch skyward, skewering the wyverns and pinning them to the ground. She lowers her hand with a smug smile, while Yuri silently admits she lives up to her rank. A roar shakes the clearing. A massive meteor wyvern descends, red eyes glowing. Yuri confirms it's B rank, and also tamed. The real threat is whoever commands them. Aisha and Chloe combine their power into a dual-colored beam aimed to finish it. The wyvern counters with a blazing sphere of fire that explodes across the horizon. As flames rush toward them, Yuri calmly calls Lime. The slime expands instantly, stretching into a massive translucent form that swallows the inferno whole. The fire ripples harmlessly inside its body. Rosas charges forward, using the expanded slime as a shield. He slams down with crushing force. Yuri follows, blade glowing blue. He layers advanced spells, releases a long-range slash, and cleaves through the battlefield in one fluid strike, ending the wyvern. Silence falls. Chloe mutters it must have been luck, pride clearly shaken. But their problem isn't over. Their horse lies badly wounded, and they need to reach the Western Highlands before sunset. Lime can't carry 4 people. Yuri kneels beside the horse and activates intermediate holy magic. Emerald light pours from his hands as wounds close and breathing steadies. His companions stare, stunned. When the glow fades, the horse rises stronger than before. They mount up and gallop. The speed is unnatural. Yuri explains he didn't just heal it, he enhanced it with enchantment magic. The forest thins, light breaking ahead as they burst from the trees. At the hill's crest, they stop. Below them, the air burns in a hellish landscape of scorched earth and flying embers. In the center of the wasteland, a massive, gnarled tree burns to the ground. Right beside it lies the shattered skeleton of a massive dragon. 3 high-ranking adventurers stand victorious over the bones. A purple-haired mage named Asha scoffs at the dead creature, calling it a pathetic weakling. Her white-haired elven companion immediately feeds her ego, bragging that even an end dragon wouldn't stand a chance against their party. But their red-haired tank isn't celebrating. He tightens his grip on his heavy shield. The magical energy in the air is rapidly spiking. Standing slightly apart from the arrogant trio, a black-haired swordsman named Kale narrows his eyes. He just wants to end this quickly. Suddenly, a bright purple glow pulses from the dragon's skeletal hand. The creature's empty eye socket ignites with a piercing red light. Kale's eyes widen. He realizes the beast is still alive. He screams for everyone to get down and violently shoves his companions out of the way. The skeletal dragon rises from the crater, crackling with dark purple energy. A blue system window flashes into existence, identifying the beast as an A-rank skull dragon. But the most terrifying part is its status. It says tamed, wreathed in purple lightning. The undead beast lunges at the party. A massive wave of pressure slams into the adventurers. The system identifies it as a howling attack. The sheer force of the aura instantly paralyzes the mage and the elf, dropping them to the dirt. They can't even twitch. Kale looks down at his own trembling hand. A heavy red aura presses down on him, trying to crush his will, but he manages to stay on his feet. He realizes this isn't a random monster encounter. Someone is actively trying to slaughter them. Kale looks up past the raging dragon and spots 2 figures standing on a distant cliff. He demands to know who's pulling the strings. The lead figure steps forward, revealing a muscular, red-skinned orc with dark horns. A system window identifies him as Yuri Azawa, the 12th general of the Demon King's army. Yuri looks down at the struggling humans with absolute contempt. He taunts Kale, claiming the previous fight was just a warm-up, and orders his tamed dragon to wipe them out. As the massive skeletal beast descends on the cowering party, the tank desperately raises his shield, bracing for the end, but Kale steps forward. He realizes Yuri must be after the same thing he helped secure last time. Kale drops into a low crouch. His black hair and dark eyes suddenly ignite with a blinding blue light. Intersecting lines of pure blue energy map out the air around him. With a single explosive movement, Kale unleashes a devastating shining mill magic attack. A massive blast of blue light violently slices through the air. The attack completely shreds the A-rank skull dragon, cutting its massive skeleton into hundreds of tiny pieces. The bones explode across the fiery crater. The 3 paralyzed adventurers stare in absolute shock. The elf can't believe a monster like that was instantly obliterated. The tank stammers, wondering why Kale hid that kind of speed until now. The arrogant mage tries to save face, claiming she could have done the same if she wasn't paralyzed. Kale simply powers down, his hair returning to black. He looks back at the elite party and bluntly tells them they just aren't very good, but the fight isn't over. Up on the cliff, the orc general smirks. Yuri snaps his fingers, releasing a pulse of green magic. He casually announces round 2. Down in the crater, the scattered fragments of the skull dragon suddenly glow with dark purple energy. The bones float into the air, magnetically pulling themselves back together. Kale watches in disbelief as the massive beast fully reforms in seconds, roaring back to life. The undead dragon immediately lunges at Kale. He barely raises his sword in time to block the massive claw. The sheer force of the impact triggers a massive shockwave across the burning landscape. Kale holds his ground, but a sickening sound reaches his ears. He looks down and sees deep cracks forming along the blade of his sword. He realizes he's trapped in a deadly loop. No matter how many times he destroys the beast, Yuri will just regenerate it. If Kale doesn't find a way to break the cycle, the undead dragon will completely wear him out. Refusing to let that happen, Kale dodges the beast's massive claws in a blur of red and black energy. He taunts it for being too slow. His eyes ignite with a piercing blue light as he summons an energy shield, blocking a devastating strike. The impact triggers a massive explosion across the crater. Amidst the fiery chaos, Kale realizes he's finally getting used to his body's current condition, but the dragon doesn't let up. It slams its claws into the scorched earth, setting off another huge blast right where Kale stood. Up on the cliff, Orc General Yuri watches with an annoyed sneer. He yells down into the smoke, asking if Kale has gone soft from sleeping for 100 years. As the dragon unleashes a volley of energy blasts, Yuri laughs, claiming that calling Kale number 0 is just a joke now. But Kale isn't struggling. He intentionally lets the blasts clip him as he falls through the air, using the impacts to pinpoint the dragon's magical core. Yuri demands that his old enemy stop disappointing him. In response, Kale dashes forward, becoming an absolute blur of motion. Kale knows his body can't handle this intense output for much longer. He grips his sword, channeling a blinding blue aura, and decides to end the fight with one final strike. But first, he needs his team out of the blast zone. He calls out for his companion, Lime. A small, blue, teardrop-shaped slime instantly appears. Kale orders the tank and mage to follow the creature. Lime darts away, leaving a glowing blue trail to guide the paralyzed adventurers to safety. Watching from the high ground, Yuri is enraged. He thinks Kale is trying to run away and gloats about finally hunting down the man who once defeated him. But Yuri's twisted smile vanishes in an instant. Kale's aura violently shifts. His eyes flare with a brilliant golden yellow. The sky splits open, and a massive winged sword made of pure golden fire descends into Kale's waiting hand. Red lightning crackles around his body. Yuri stares in absolute terror. He screams that Kale shouldn't be able to use any magic other than swordsmanship. Kale calmly looks up at the panicked general and replies that he doesn't remember such a rule. With a single devastating swing, Kale unleashes a colossal wave of golden fire. The fiery torrent rushes straight up the cliffside. Yuri screams in shock, realizing the overwhelming force is impossible to stop. The golden flames completely consume the landscape, obliterating the orc general in a massive, blinding explosion. Far away from the blast zone, Lime successfully deposits the 3 adventurers. They look back at the towering inferno in absolute shock. shock. Back in the smoldering crater, Kale calmly sheathes his weapon. The blade of his normal sword is completely shattered from channeling the golden fire, but he notes he's getting better at controlling his power. When the party finally regroups, the tank is in awe. He can't believe Kale wiped out an A-rank evil dragon in a single blow. Kale plays it off as luck, reminding them he promised to protect them, but the tank gets serious. He hints at Kale's dark past, mentioning a fiery massacre, before quickly apologizing for prying. Kale decides it's best to keep his true identity a terrifying secret. Changing the subject, the tank points to a glowing purple crystal left in the crater. Kale picks it up, and a system window identifies it as an A-rank dragon's magic stone. The mage and elf are stunned by the ultra-rare loot. Kale tries to hand it over, but the tank refuses, insisting Kale earned it, and that they'll be counting on him in the future. Kale looks at the crystal, realizing he can use it to forge a new sword. He just wants a quiet life, but knows that dream is a long way off. Sometime later, the scene shifts to a quiet brick building. Sunlight streams through a bedroom window where Kale is fast asleep. A soft noise wakes him up. He groggily calls out for lime and turns over. To his shock, the little blue slime sleeping next to him has transformed into a small humanoid girl. As Kale stares at her new form, an unknown voice calls out from the hallway, asking who is inside. The world is full of legendary beasts, from the abyssal kraken to the heavenly phoenix. Dutch built his entire reputation around capturing them, earning the title of Wandering Rare Monster Hunter. Riding in the back of their cart, he proudly brags about his elite skills and claims his party is the strongest in the world. Kale just smiles and nods, genuinely impressed to be traveling with such a famous veteran. They finally arrive at the freezing, snow-covered peaks of Dragon's Valley. Their path is immediately blocked by a massive, bottomless chasm, but Dutch doesn't hesitate. He commands his rabbit-like companion, Mole, to leap into the abyss. Mole's long, thin tail unravels like a rope, embedding itself into the far cliff face to create a perfect, taut bridge. Kale carefully walks across, realizing Dutch's support skills are actually top tier. However, the veteran's physical skills leave a lot to be desired. Moments later, Dutch is groaning and sweating as he slowly hauls himself up a steep, icy incline with a rope. He calls down to Kale, warning the rookie that he can't carry him up, but Kale doesn't need help. Lime envelops Kale's boots in a glowing blue aura, transforming into a magical snowboard. Kale effortlessly glides up the vertical ice wall, soaring right over Dutch's head and landing gracefully on the ledge above. Dutch dangles from his rope, completely stunned. Before Dutch can process what just happened, the snow erupts around them. A pack of massive, blue-skinned werewolves with glowing red eyes surrounds the tamers. A system window identifies them as rank D hobolds. Dutch quickly recovers his confidence. He smirks, declaring that a true master tamer wins over his subordinates with friendly communication. He pulls out a dark, sinister-looking sphere covered in glowing red gems, calling it his homemade special dumpling. Dutch cheerfully tosses the terrifying snack into the snow, expecting the monsters to happily eat it. Instead, the dumpling radiates a dark, purple energy. The hobolds instantly clutch their heads, screaming in absolute agony. Driven into a blind rage by the pain, the massive werewolves charge straight at Dutch. The A-ranker screams in terror. In a flash of movement, Kale kicks Dutch out of the danger zone and draws his sword. He glares down the charging pack, his eyes glowing with a piercing, murderous blue light. The hobolds freeze in their tracks, instantly cowering in fear. Sensing the shift in power, Lime puffs up and multiplies into several smaller slimes. The little blue blobs bounce through the air and land squarely on the terrified monster's snouts. Kale calmly pets one of his new companions, declaring the pack successfully tamed. Dutch watches from the snow, his jaw on the floor. With their new werewolf escort, the tamers push deeper into the valley until they hit a dead end. A massive wall made of giant overlapping stone scales completely blocks a dark cave entrance. Dutch decides it's time to show off his real power. He pulls out a piece of parchment, draws a complex red symbol, and slams it onto the ground. A massive, rank D stone golem erupts from the earth. Dutch orders his secret weapon to smash the barrier. The golem winds up and delivers a devastating punch to the scaly wall, but its stone fists just bounce right off. Dutch curses his lack of firepower. Kale sighs and tells the veteran to step back. Without breaking a sweat, Kale unleashes a blinding barrage of blue and purple energy slashes. The sheer force of the attack completely obliterates the massive stone barrier, sending Dutch and his golem flying backward into the snow. As the dust settles, a blue system window pops up in front of Kale, announcing that his taming skill has leveled up to level 2. Lying on his back, Dutch stares at the shattered, tattered wall in absolute terror, realizing this guy is no ordinary rookie. But the blast didn't just clear the path. Deep within the pitch-black cave, a massive pair of purple-robed legs steps toward the entrance, and a booming voice echoes from the shadows. Kale keeps his eyes locked on the darkness. As the shadowy figure steps out of the cavern, Kale doesn't hesitate. He lunges forward and grabs the stranger by the collar. The intimidating figure lets out a high-pitched squeak. It's just a girl in a purple, rabbit-eared robe. Dutch stares in confusion as Kale demands to know who she is. The girl introduces herself as Yuri. She explains she sealed the cave to keep nosy people out and never expected anyone to blast through it. Secretly, she's dreaming of stealing dragon eggs to get filthy rich. But when she gets a good look at Dutch, her eyes widen. She pulls out a blue adventurer card and recognizes him as Dutch the Hero, a legendary A-ranker famous for his flawless, kind-hearted reputation. Realizing his shady side hustle is exposed, Dutch drops to his hands and knees in the snow. He bows deeply, crying and begging them to keep his secret. Yuri is disgusted and wants to ditch him, but Kale calmly defends the veteran, saying he isn't entirely bad. Before they can argue, the snow crunches around them. A party of 5 armed, hobold-like monsters surrounds the trio. Yuri offers backup, but Kale steps forward alone. He raises his fist to the sky. His eyes glow a piercing blue as 3 red, blood-like orbs manifest and drip down his face. In a blinding flash, Kale unleashes a devastating flurry of purple and blue energy slashes. The monsters don't even stand a chance. They are completely disintegrated by the sheer force of the attack. Kale wipes his cheek, noticing a new blue gem on his hand and realizing his power has grown. Yuri and Dutch watch in absolute shock. Tamers are supposed to stay in the backlines, but Kale fights like an elite vanguard. Kale helps the trembling Dutch to his feet feet. Yuri spots the black A-rank symbol on Dutch's bag and looks surprised, but keeps her mouth shut. Kale warns that more monsters will come to protect the dragon, so they need to move fast. He invites Yuri to join them, and the B-rank tamer agrees. The trio pushes deep into the dark cavern. Suddenly, Dutch spots a small white dragon resting on a high ledge. Blinded by greed, the veteran ditches the group and scrambles up the steep rock face, planning to snatch the treasure and run. But as he pulls himself over the edge, he freezes. A massive, shadowy dragon head with a single glowing yellow eye looms out of the darkness. Dutch screams in terror and tumbles backward off the cliff. Kale steps forward, completely unfazed. A colossal white serpentine mother dragon stares down at him. Kale closes his eyes and refuses to help Dutch steal her child. Dutch grabs Kale by the shoulders, shaking him and calling him insane for passing up the loot. The mother dragon watches them, telepathically projecting her thoughts. She declares that dragons value their children above their own lives, and taking her egg without consent is an unforgivable crime. Dutch restrains Kale from behind, apologizing for getting in his way. The mother dragon rests peacefully beside her single, massive egg, but the piece is instantly shattered. A thin beam of red light shoots down from the cavern ceiling. It strikes the egg with a sickening crack. The mother dragon's eye instantly glows, a furious blood red. She throws her head back and unleashes a deafening, enraged roar that shakes the entire cave. Down below, Kale, Yuri, and Dutch look up in absolute horror as the mother dragon prepares to slaughter them. Far from the dragon's cave, inside a grand guild hall in a coastal city, Aisha stands before a small group of adventurers, including Kyle. She wears her signature purple cloak. The mood is heavy. Out of their original 10 members, only 5 remain. Aisha grimly reveals that in just 1 month, 3 members died and 2 retired. Kale's expression hardens, fully grasping the lethal reality of their profession. But Aisha quickly claps her hands, shifting to a cheerful tone. She holds up a large brown sack and announces their training for the day. Picking up trash. Out in the cobblestone town square, the group gets to work. While a sideburned adventurer loudly complains about the menial labor, Kale simply drops to his knees and starts cleaning. Up on a balcony, Aisha watches him closely, hoping to teach him a lesson he desperately needs. Deciding to just get the job done, Kale taps into his agility. He zips across the square in a blur of blue energy, instantly filling his sack. A young boy and his mother watch in awe. Kale smiles and pats the boy's head. Inspired by the adventurer's humility, the boy and his mother start picking up trash too. The positive energy spreads like wildfire, and soon, the entire town square is filled with citizens helping out. Even when a group of rough thugs scoff and flick a cigarette butt onto the clean street, Kale doesn't get angry. He just smiles and cleans it up. Aisha walks over, praising Kale for inspiring the town. She tells him to observe the people around him. Suddenly, Kale's mind flashes back to a dark memory, a vision of the red-skinned demon general, Yuri, standing in flames and calling him her contractor. The memory triggers an epiphany. Kale realizes that true respect isn't just won with a sword. It's earned by being a local hero who uplifts the people. He admits to Aisha that he had only been thinking of himself. Later that day, the inspired young boy runs through the streets with a wooden toy sword, eager to clean up more trash. But he accidentally bumps into the leg of a towering thug with a blonde mohawk. The thug and his bald friend laugh cruelly. They mock the boy's dreams, kick him to the ground, and shatter his wooden sword. The boy's face crumples in tears. Suddenly, a shadow falls over the bald thug. Kale appears out of nowhere, holding the exact cigarette butt the thugs had dropped earlier. He calmly points to a nearby bin and tells them to throw their own trash away. Enraged, the mohawk thug cracks his knuckles and lunges. Kale doesn't even flinch. He delivers a blindingly fast punch, knocking the thug off his feet. As the thug hits the ground, Kale's hand ignites with intense fire magic. He coldly says, "Here's your cigarette back," and unleashes a massive torrent of flames that completely engulfs the thug. The man screams in agony as he burns. Terrified, the bald thug turns and runs for his life. Kale's other hand glows with green energy. He casts wind pressure, sending a devastating blast of air that launches the fleeing thug into the sky. Kale stands over the smoldering remains of the first attacker, declaring he was born from the sin of littering. The young boy stares up at Kale, completely starstruck. Night falls over a barren, rocky landscape outside the city. Aisha walks alone under the full moon, wondering where a certain someone has gone. Nearby, a silhouetted figure sits atop a large rock. The mysterious hooded figure looks down at a severely battered and gruesomely burned man Anges. The disgraced A-ranker somehow survived the dragon's point-blank blast, but he is screaming in absolute agony. The hooded figure, its yellow eyes glowing in the dark, tells Anges that it saw the whole incident. It offers the broken man a second chance, asking what he will do if granted true power. Before Anges can answer, the figure's cloak tears apart. A monstrously muscular being with wild white hair emerges, crackling with violent purple energy. The monster smirks down at the ruined adventurer. "You've Adama. I didn't think I'd find you this soon." Meanwhile, inside a grand guild hall, a high-ranking guildmaster in heavy gray armor summons Kale. With Lime resting on his shoulder, Kale asks why he was called. The guildmaster smirks and offers him an A-rank quest. The subjugation of the Ogre King is a staggering 2 million gold. A blue system window details the horrifying reality of the mission, showing flashbacks of a massive green ogre slaughtering adventurers and destroying a local village. The guildmaster admits he's too busy to handle it himself and recommends Kale for the job. Kale sighs, thinking it sounds like a troublesome ordeal, but he accepts anyway, figuring the powerful monster will make a perfect meal for Lime. Heading into the dense forest toward the target location, Kale spots a familiar face hiding behind a tree. It's Phil, the pigtail-wearing girl from his training group, now fully geared up as an adventurer. She nervously admits she took the quest too, revealing that the target location, Morong Village, is actually her hometown. Looking up at the settlement built high into the massive trees, she clutches her chest, determined to protect her home. She blushes and smiles, telling Kale she feels incredibly reassured, having him by her side. As they walk down the forest path, a thin beam of energy suddenly zips right past their heads. An angry, 102-year-old woman in a green coat stands at the village entrance, yelling at them to get lost. Phil quickly diffuses the situation, calling the elderly woman Granny Arlett. Recognizing her granddaughter, Arlett's harsh expression softens. She welcomes Kale, and the two adventurers climb the long wooden staircase up into the canopy. Inside a wooden room, Arlett teases Phil about bringing a boy home, leaving the young adventurer adventurer completely flustered and waving her hands in denial. But Arlette quickly drops the jokes. She kneels before Kale and tells him that while the guild summons was for the village, it was also specifically for him. Kale's expression hardens. He asks Arlette if she knows the legend of the Oni god. Arlette nods, explaining that long ago, their guardian deity went completely berserk. Any adventurer who challenged the massive horned demon never returned. To survive, the village chose a path of coexistence. She warns Kale not to be reckless, fearing that inexperienced fighters will only provoke the beast. Kale simply sits cross-legged and meditates, calmly stating that his party will handle the threat. Watching his stoic demeanor, Arlette realizes this young swordsman is far from ordinary. Suddenly, Kale's eyes snap open. He senses a presence in the branches above. A small, wolf-like lichen boy in a yellow vest stares down at him. Phil introduces the boy as her little brother, Sam. She explains that Morong Village is actually a haven for orphans, and Arlette raised both of them from childhood. Sam leaps down from the branch and immediately points an accusatory finger at Kale. He calls the swordsman a sleepyhead and refuses to accept him. Baring his fangs, Sam declares he's going to personally evaluate Kale's strength as a task from Granny. Phil scolds her brother for being rude, but Sam just mocks her taste in men, leaving both Kale and Phil completely embarrassed. As Phil tries to drag Kale away, the group is suddenly ambushed in a forest clearing. They are surrounded by a pack of hoony small, blue, goblin-like monsters with glowing yellow eyes. Sam crosses his arms, smugly waiting to see what Kale can do. He doesn't have to wait long. Kale and Phil instantly blur into action, effortlessly slicing through the E-rank monsters in a matter of seconds. Standing among the defeated goblins, Kale looks back at the flustered wolf boy and asks if he accepts him now. But the victory is cut short. A massive shadow falls over Sam. A towering, pale-skinned Oni with a single horn, long white hair, and glowing red eyes looms right behind the terrified boy. Kale realizes the true threat of the village has finally arrived. The Oni raises its enormous fist and swings down with crushing force. In a flash, Kale teleports right in front of Sam. He casts water magic. A tesselar wall manifests, forming a massive crystalline shield that absorbs the devastating blow. Phil grabs her brother and pulls him to safety. Kale glares up at the snarling monster. His hand crackles with intense blue energy as he declares he'll deal with this one himself. Kale thrusts his hand forward, blasting the pale-skinned Oni with a barrage of jagged ice and blue energy. The monster flies backward in a massive explosion of dust, but as the smoke clears, the beast mutters something impossible. It calls Kale by his former name, Aizawa Yuri. Kale lands gracefully, his eyes narrowing. He wonders how this random village threat could possibly know his true identity. Without missing a beat, he lunges forward and delivers a devastating, glowing blue slash right across the monster's chest. Watching from the sidelines, Sam's jaw drops. He stammers, asking if all adventurers from the city are this ridiculously strong. Phil just blushes, proudly telling her little brother that Kale is simply special. The wounded Oni stumbles back, groaning in agony. Suddenly, it clutches its head as fragmented memories tear through its mind. The monster's face begins to warp and shift, morphing into a horribly disfigured version of the disgraced A-ranker, Anges. Pointing a trembling finger at Kale, the beast repeats his old name. Kale's eyes widen in recognition. He asks if the monster is actually Anges, but he doesn't wait for an answer. Kale delivers a brutal spinning kick, launching the creature into the air. As it tumbles, the dark energy dissipates, and the monster fully reverts into the human form of Anges, crashing unconscious onto the forest floor. Staring down at his former rival, Kale pieces the puzzle together. Someone is deliberately turning humans into ogres. Knowing they've found a crucial clue, he turns to Phil and suggests they head back. Inside the canopy treehouse, Granny Arlette bursts into tears of relief, throwing her arms open to welcome them back. Sitting around the wooden table, Arlette is in pure disbelief that Kale actually subjugated the beast. Sam immediately tries to act tough, bragging that they all took down the ogre together, leaving Phil completely embarrassed. But Arlette's gaze locks onto Kale. Her eyes widen as she whispers that he looks exactly like the lone adventurer who saved their village 30 years ago. Kale realizes she's talking about his old master. Arlette begs him not to throw his life away, refusing to lose another promising hero. Kale simply nods, agreeing to be careful. But the mission isn't over. Arlette stands up and unrolls an ancient scroll. It details a specific ritual required to summon the actual target of their A-rank quest, the true Ogre King. Following the scroll's instructions, Kale and Phil head to a small, moonlit shrine at the edge of the village. They set down plates of food offerings in front of a red torii gate. Phil has completely changed her gear, now wearing a traditional red and white shrine maiden outfit complete with a golden crown. She strikes a dramatic pose, declaring she's ready to take on the deity's grudges. Kale dryly asks if she's really up for this. Standing inside the ritual circle, Phil nervously admits she has zero confidence in her combat skills, but she's very confident in her ability to run away. Before Kale can respond, dark, shadowy tendrils erupt from the soil around them. Kale calmly looks down and warns her that it's coming. The moonlight is suddenly blocked out by a towering silhouette. The true Ogre King materializes a gigantic, green-skinned behemoth with massive horns, jutting tusks, and violent purple energy crackling across its mountainous body. A blue system window confirms the horrifying reality. Ogre King, rank A. Phil screams in terror, realizing this beast is leagues above the pale Oni. Kale immediately draws his sword. He orders Lime to protect Phil. The little blue slime happily thanks Kale for the incoming food, and rapidly expands into a massive, gelatinous shield around the trembling girl. With Phil safe, Kale raises his blade. A brilliant column of blue light pierces the night sky. Lightning crackles down his arm as he remembers his master's core teaching. Always enjoy a fight against a truly strong opponent. The massive Ogre King charges, swinging a club the size of a tree. Kale meets the charge head-on, unleashing a massive wave of blue energy that clashes violently against the beast. Moving at blinding speeds, Kale dashes right past the monster, leaving a glowing blue trail in his wake. He leaps high into the air, narrowly dodging the colossal club as it completely shatters the red torii gate. In the same fluid motion, Kale's blade slices clean through the monster's thick hide, severing its massive arm. Kale lands gracefully on the beast's broken club, which is now embedded in the dirt. Without giving the monster a second to breathe, he activates his instant movement skill, teleporting right in front of the Ogre King's chest. With an intense glare, he delivers a devastating upward slash, carving a deep gash straight up the monster's torso. The Ogre King roars in agony, but as Kale watches, the monster's severed arm begins to bubble with a strange, cosmic, starry energy. It's regenerating. Kale instantly recognizes the dark magic. It's the exact same starry regeneration used by the undead skull dragon he fought weeks ago. Suddenly, the Ogre King stops attacking. It glares down at Kale, but its mouth doesn't move. Instead, a deep, exhausted voice echoes directly into Kale's mind. The beast telepathically says it has finally met a powerful human. The massive A-rank monster drops to its knees, staring at Kale with glowing red eyes. The Ogre King begs for one simple thing. Please, kill me. Kale stands his ground, sword drawn, staring back at the behemoth in stunned silence. The creature telepathically explains its tragic reality. It is trapped in a state of endless regeneration, forced to suffer for eternity. Kale understands what he must do. He raises his blade. The steel glows with a faint blue light as the beast lets out one final, agonizing roar, begging for release. With a powerful horizontal slash, Kale decapitates the A-rank monster. The severed head flies through the air, but the body stays kneeling. A telepathic voice echoes one last time, thanking the strong swordsman. As Kale watches, the mountainous green body dissolves into a cloud of black smoke and floating particles. When the dust settles, a single golden earring clinks against the cobblestone. Kale bends down and scoops it into his palm. He stares at the glowing gem, his eyes widening in horror. He remembers Granny Arlette describing the lone hero who saved their village 30 years ago. The hero wore this exact earring. Kale realizes the terrible truth. The Ogre King wasn't just a random monster. It was Arlette's missing son. The dark revelation triggers a memory deep within Kale's mind. A flashback pulls him back to a fierce battle against a red-skinned demon with long white hair. The demon introduces himself as Yuri Potsny, a ruthless general of the Demon King's army. Yuri laughs, mocking the irony of the situation. He proudly admits that he was the one who cursed the human hero, twisting him into the mindless Ogre King just to teach humanity a cruel lesson. Swirling with red and purple energy, Yuri decides to share the misery. He unleashes the exact same curse at Kale, asking if he's ready to become the next monster. A blast of red energy slams into Kale's chest. Dark, shadowy skulls swirl around him as a massive, spectral blue demon materializes at his back. Yuri taunts him, waiting for the gruesome transformation, but Kale doesn't break. Instead of mutating, Kale absorbs the dark energy straight into his body. A blue system window suddenly chimes. He has acquired the skill Curse Magic Extractor. Yuri stares in absolute shock. Enraged, the demon general unleashes an even stronger wave of dark magic, trapping Kale inside a cage of crackling red lightning. But Kale just smirks. His hand glows with a brilliant cyan light as he activates Curse Reversal. His hair flashes white, and a massive cyan aura erupts around him. Moving at blinding speed, Kale teleports right behind the demon. Yuri's eye widens in pure terror just before Kale blasts the reversed curse point blank into his back. A colossal fiery explosion engulfs the battlefield, sending the smoking defeated demon plummeting toward the city below. The memory fades. Back in the present, Kale stares down at his sword. The blade now pulses with a fierce red aura. By absorbing Yuri's dark curse, Kale realizes he has successfully converted the corrupted energy into a brand new skill, Advanced Fire Magic. With the A-rank threat permanently eliminated, Kale and Phil return to the Canopy Village. Granny Arlette and little Sam are completely speechless that he actually won. Sam officially gives Kale his stamp of approval, asking the powerful swordsman to take good care of his sister. Phil instantly turns bright red. As Arlette prepares to share the good news with the rest of the village, Kale steps forward. He gently places the golden earring into the old woman's hands. He explains that it was the core the Ogre King was protecting. Looking Arlette in the eye, Kale tells her a comforting lie. He says that no matter what form her son took, he fought bravely to protect this village to his very last breath. Arlette clutches the earring to her chest. Tears stream down her face as she closes her eyes and whispers a quiet thank you. Later that day, Kale and Phil walk side by side down a sunlit dirt path, leaving the village behind. Phil looks up at him with a bright smile, thanking him for not telling her grandmother the horrifying truth. She admits she really likes his kind lies. Kale looks back at the young adventurer. He realizes he managed to save both Arlette's heart and her son's soul. As they continue down the road, Kale reflects on how much Phil has grown. She playfully asks if he's complimenting her. Kale just keeps walking, leading the way to their next destination. Without warning, Kale finds himself submerged in a surreal, deep blue space. Glowing digital architecture floats around him like an underwater ruin. He stands on a set of stairs, staring up blankly and wondering where he is. Suddenly, a beautiful woman with long blue hair and a flowing dress appears. The white veil appears above him. She floats gracefully through the water, smiling gently as she tells Kale she has been watching him for a long time. She clasps her hands together and begs for his help. Her expression turns dead serious as she warns him that if he refuses, the entire world will face destruction. A swirling ball of blue energy forms beside her. Before Kale can even ask what she means, the water crashes in on him. He clutches his throat, desperately gasping for air as bubbles escape his mouth and the darkness pulls him under. Kale snaps awake, gasping for breath. He sits up in a sunlit in-room, finding Lime jiggling frantically on his face. Kale pulls the little blue slime off, realizing the underwater vision was just a dream, but it felt incredibly lucid. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he thinks about the woman's warning. The world getting destroyed would completely ruin his plans for a quiet, free life. Deciding he can't just ignore a doomsday warning, he resolves to investigate and heads straight to the local adventurers guild. Kale walks up to the guild counter and tells the cat-eared receptionist that he needs to travel to the city of Luminaria. The receptionist shakes her head, explaining that travel to Luminaria is currently heavily restricted. Adventurers are strictly forbidden from entering the city gates. Kale doesn't miss a beat. He bluntly tells her that he has to go, or else the world will be destroyed. Shocked by his deadpan warning, the receptionist quickly explains a loophole. The city is hosting a special night order entry test. If an adventurer passes the exam, they can enter the city as a new recruit. Kale realizes he has no other choice but to take the test. As he stands at the counter, a cheerful voice calls out the name Rico. Kale turns to see a woman with long red hair and a red cape waving at him. She recognizes him from the fake adventurer ID he's been carrying. Assuming he's also here for the night exam, she asks him to team up as her companion. Kale agrees, and the two head out into the crowded courtyard where the applicants are gathering. The redhead smiles, reminiscing about the old days, completely unaware that Kale got the Rico ID card from someone else entirely. As they walk, a young blonde girl in pink pink and white armor suddenly sprints through the crowd. She tackles the redhead with a massive hug, squealing about how beautiful her big sister has gotten. The redhead struggles to peel the girl off, introducing her to Kale as Alina. A blue system window confirms Alina is a B-rank adventurer. Alina glares at Kale suspiciously and demands to know who he is. The redhead introduces Kale as a strong B-rank adventurer she met a long time ago. Intrigued, Alina demands to see his adventurer ID. Kale calmly pulls out his card. Alina takes one look at the giant F printed on it and absolutely loses her mind. She screams in outrage, accusing Kale of making a fool out of her. She furiously points her finger at him, yelling that a trash F rank needs to know his place and stay far away from her big sister. The redhead frantically tries to calm Alina down, insisting that Kale is actually incredibly strong, but Alina stubbornly refuses to acknowledge him. The argument is cut short when a man in heavy silver armor and a green cape steps up to address the massive crowd. A blue system window identifies him as Brian Hawks, the Night Order captain in charge of the exam. Brian's voice booms across the courtyard as he announces the rules. The applicants will be thrown into a brutal 2-day survival test inside the Dead Spirits Forest. Only those who survive the full 2 days will be allowed to join the Night Order and enter Luminaria. Kale stares ahead, determined to clear the forest and reach the city. Right beside him, Alina grips a dagger pulsing with a dangerous purple aura. She glares at Kale, vowing she absolutely will not lose. As the 2-day survival test begins in the Dead Spirits Forest, Alina reaches her breaking point. She points a furious finger at Kale, threatening to fail him instantly if he drags her older sister down. The redhead frantically tries to hold the blonde girl back, begging her to calm down. Kale just stares back with a deadpan expression, silently admitting he can't blame her for being suspicious of an F-rank adventurer. Alina decides a practical test is in order. Right on cue, a massive white wolf with glowing yellow eyes steps out of the brush. A blue system window identifies the beast as Wankichi, a B-rank monster. The redhead leaps into action, telling Kale to show them his full strength. She effortlessly slices through a pack of smaller gray wolves with glowing red slashes, earning immediate praise from Alina. Sitting on the grass, Alina challenges Kale to match her sister's display. Kale decides he has no choice but to play along. He draws his serrated sword and channels a swirling vortex of blue and purple energy into the blade. The sheer force of his aura kicks up a massive cloud of dust and debris. Alina and the redhead stare in absolute shock. Alina reluctantly admits his raw power is incredible, even if his swordsmanship is completely unorthodox for a B-ranker. Kale crosses his arms and coolly tells the blonde girl that the test has only just begun, so she better watch him closely. Alina immediately looks away, blushing and pouting in frustration. Later, the trio stops by a rushing river to secure food. Alina leaps into the air, her daggers pulsing with a dangerous purple aura. She dives toward the water and effortlessly snags 2 large fish, proudly holding them up on her blades. Not wanting to be outdone, Kale decides to handle the rest of the hunting with magic. He raises his hand and a blue system alert chimes, confirming he has acquired advanced non-elemental magic level 1. Alina asks what he's doing, but Kale just tells her he's helping. He projects a massive, dark magic circle directly over the river's surface. Swirling blue energy churns the water violently before a colossal geyser erupts into the sky. Dozens of fish rain down onto the riverbank. Kale stands proudly with his hands on his hips over a mountain of fresh fish. The redhead smiles and asks Alina if she finally acknowledges Kale's skills. Alina just scoffs, crossing her arms and refusing to give him an inch. Night falls, and the group sets up camp under a crescent moon. Alina warns that the forest monsters become far more active in the dark, smirking as she suggests Kale might just doze off and get eaten. As Kale crouches to gather firewood, glowing red eyes suddenly surround the campsite. A pack of dark, wolf-like monsters closes in on the girls. Alina casually notes that her giant white wolf, Wankichi, seems to have brought some friends. Despite the danger, Kale just calmly tends to the campfire. This completely sets Alina off. She furiously points at him, demanding to know who he really is and why he's messing around during a lethal exam. She vows to expose him as a total fraud. The redhead quickly steps in, defending Kale by saying he just isn't taking the threat seriously yet. Once things settle down, the redhead sits by the fire with Kale. Calling him by his fake ID name Rico, she asks a deeply personal question. She wants to know why he originally joined the Night Order, and more importantly, why he abandoned it to become an adventurer. Kale freezes, having absolutely no idea how to answer for a man he's never met. Seeing his hesitation, the redhead's expression drops. Looking incredibly lonely, she apologizes for prying and quietly excuses herself to her tent. Kale watches her leave, realizing he needs to learn more about this Rico guy before his cover is completely blown. He walks over to the other side of the fire and sits down on a log right across from Alina. Startled, she defensively states that Wankichi is keeping watch so he can go to sleep. Instead, Kale asks Alina how she and the redhead first met. He plays it off by saying he's curious about Rico's old life in the capital. Alina's eyes light up. Blushing with excitement, she eagerly agrees, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to brag about how amazing her older sister is. Alina smiles and promises to tell him a very special story. A flashback begins, showing the redhead back in her night recruit days, standing victorious in a training yard duel.